Hey everyone, how's it going? Sorry for the long wait. Let me shut this music off. There we go. So, had a little accident, but I don't want to talk too much about myself because somebody said that all I do is talk about my personal life and then a little bit about cryptids, which is, you're full of crap, dude. So somebody I had a little word exchange with, but I didn't get into it. I just let them say whatever they want. But I was like, he goes, I quit listening to the stream, a few episodes back. And I'm like, well, you haven't listened to the last few episodes. So obviously, you don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to talk tonight. Okay. Sorry, I got in a little bit late. Spilled a bunch of coffee in the back of my truck, which I don't even drink coffee, but, I'd gotten it for Tony and Anthony, and it just went everywhere. Oh boy, big mess. And we're in the middle of moving, so a lot of stuff going on. So I'm trying to keep it together with all the stuff we got going on here. But I got some stories for you tonight. I do, and I got a show planned here. So we're going to do a tribute tonight to Linda Godfrey. Her funeral was today. And Chad Lewis, one of my friends, he was there. He's an author. You know who he is. He writes a lot of good books about a lot of subjects. And he's a really smart guy. And he's been on our show. He's been on the Livestream, I believe. And we did some standalone episodes with him, with Barton as my host, co-host. So, let me get started here. I didn't have time. Chad Lewis made a post on his Facebook about Linda's passing and told me to feel free to read whatever I wanted from it. I'm not going to do that because I didn't get a chance to even look at it because, like I said, I'm moving and I didn't have time. Freaking shoes untied on top of everything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold on one second, folks. Let me my shoe is coming off here. My shoe is freaking falling off. This is not comfortable. I'm not ready to go here tonight at all. Oh boy, this has been Murphy's Law today.
Yeah, it's been kind of hectic.
If I ever meet Murphy, I'm going to kick him in the balls. Okay, so anyways, I've been getting my butt kicked all day. I've just been running around and just whatever. But enough of that. Look, here, what we're going to do, we're going to talk to some people. I'm going to bring some people on, and they're going to talk, and then we're going to move into some stories, and then we're going to have some people talk, and then we're going to do some stories. It's going to run like that. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to call somebody here. Josh Turner, PRTpodcast.com. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. That's my email address if you want to get a hold of me. If you want to message me through Facebook, you can. I got about 500 friend requests on there. I don't even know who, because these people aren't messaging me and telling me that they're listeners of the show. The other thing I got to do is somehow get these people who are just hell-bent on listening to us on Spotify or whatever other platform they want to listen to us on. And they're like, oh, well, why haven't you produced anything new? And I'm like, do you never heard of YouTube? So apparently these people, they just, there's a bunch of them. It's not just one or two people. It's a bunch of people who apparently all these people did was listen to me on Spotify. And they don't even know, I guess a lot of them don't even know that the live stream existed. Okay. Because if they did, they would be here and they would be here and they would be, participating and they would know that we're here on YouTube. And So they keep messaging me like every day, telling me, why is there only 175 episodes? Why did you stop? And I'm like, I never did. We just quit going to platforms that didn't do anything for us. Okay, so that's what's going on with that. And I don't know why it's so dark in here. I feel like I'm in a dungeon, but that's all right. So anyways, that's what's going on with that. And I apologize for all my, I'm very sorry. I'm going to have to come right back, folks. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, all right, folks. Here we are. We're back. So I don't know. I like it lighter in here. I don't know. It just seemed like it was very dark, and I couldn't. My eyes weren't adjusting with the lighting. It was messing with my eyes. But we can try it. You can turn it off. See how it looks. Let me see. Let me get the first phone call going here, folks. Okay. Oh boy. Bear with me, folks. And I got some really good stories planned tonight. I got some good stuff that I was planning on using, but it's a tribute to Linda, and so I want to tell some Dogman stories tonight. We're going to get into it. I promise. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Dude, close that door. I don't know why. There we go. All right, so let's make this call. Let me try it again here. Oh, the echo is. God.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, what's going on, David?
One of those days, man.
Oh yeah,
how's it going?
Yeah, it's been a day for me too. Yeah. So, David, I talked to you earlier, and this is a tribute to Linda Godfrey. So I wanted to give you a call because you were one of her colleagues, and when me and her had talked, you were one of the people that came up in conversation, and you knew her quite well. So I wanted to talk to some different people in the field that could give a little perspective, or their perspective, on her and their relationship with her, and maybe how they were influenced by her. So,
yeah, it's always tough when things like this happen. I mean, she's a tremendous loss to the field, and of course to her family and friends and everything. And I've thought about her a lot since she just passed, and it's like I said, it's hard. It's hard to come to words with things like this. But I can say a few things about Linda. Of course, everybody knows, her story in terms of how she got involved with the field and everything, uncovering all the Bray Road legend and chronicling those accounts. And one of the things about Linda that just I think just made her an outstanding person in a lot of ways was that for her this stuff, it wasn't about ego. It wasn't about her becoming, famous or a star or anything like that. And we've got so much of that in this field. We really do. And there's so many people who are involved in it just because, they want to be famous or want to be this or that. And for her, it was a genuine fascination and exploration of the unknown. And, she was just one of those people that, she did the research, she talked to witnesses, and she actually got out in the field. She was all around just an incredible person in terms of the work, that we have in common. So again, I mean, she's going to be remembered by people for decades, really, for, the legacy that she's left behind. She left behind some incredible books. And, she was always a good person to bounce things off of, because she liked to dig into a lot of the obscure cryptids and things and stuff like I did. And, I can remember conversations with her where, she called me up at one point. I got this account about, something completely off the wall. And, it'd be stuff like that. Have you ever heard of anything like this? We could run things by each other. And sadly, of course, she had kind of pulled back a lot in the last couple of years. I'm sure everybody understands that now. And, I don't know. I'm not sure what else to say. Just an incredible person who is going to be very, very missed by a lot of people, and a continued influence. I mean, she was an icon.
Yeah.
She is an icon.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to say with you, David, and folks, this is David Weatherly, in case I didn't say it earlier. When I did the Dogman conference with Ken, David, you were one of the people that was instrumental in making that happen, because we had a conversation and you were like, you need to do a conference. And me and Ken had been planning that before COVID happened. And Linda was one of the first people that me and Barton had reached out to, and she wanted to go. Like, she really wanted to go. And when I told her who all was going to be there, she's like, oh, those are my people. And she really wanted to go. And I told her, when I talked to her, I was like, David put the idea back into my head, and then, I gave it to Ken, and Ken just took off with it, and then we all came together, and it was great. But, at the conference, and me and you talked about this, she was missed there.
Yes.
She was one of the pieces that was missing, and there were a couple others, but really, really her was just not being there, and I know she wanted to be there, and I just think that it's a shame that she couldn't be. And I know that she cared about you and Nick and Ken and Lyle and me, Barton, all of us, very, people that she cared about a lot. And I know Chad, when I messaged with him earlier, he was going to her funeral, and it just, I guess, when he messaged me back, like, when I messaged him about coming on tonight, and he had some stuff he'd already planned, but he's, busy, and I understand that, but it really made it real to me. And like you said, being able to have her to bounce things off of, and ideas, and it's tough. It's really tough. And even though we kind of knew that this was coming, it didn't make it any easier for me to digest, because it just, it's real. And she literally was the first person that I corresponded with, and you were one of the first of the handful of people that I first corresponded with, but she was the first person that I had corresponded with in this field, that actually gave me time of day and listened to what I had to say. And then for that, I'll always appreciate that she responded to emails, and treated me like an equal when we weren't equals. She was head and shoulders above me. I was nobody, but she treated everybody that way. She was nice. And
she really was. She was a genuinely nice person, and was always willing to listen, and to give feedback for, it didn't matter who it was. If somebody came to her and had a question or, comment about something she had written about or, whatever the case was. And, she, like I said, for her, it truly was all about the exploration of, all these strange things that go on in the world. It wasn't about trying to, some kind of ego gratification or anything like that. So, have a great deal of respect for her on a lot of levels, and that's certainly one of them.
Yeah. So, David, I'm going to let you go because I know you got things to do, and I got to get on with the show. But I appreciate you taking my call, and I'm glad that you were able to say a few words.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And of course, prayers for her family, and we're all gonna greatly miss her, and I guess we can take a little bit of comfort in knowing that she's got the answers now.
Yeah, that's what Barton said. She's got the answers that we've all been looking for.
That's right. That's right. All right, Josh. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay, I'll see you, David.
All right, bye.
Bye. So that was David Weatherly, folks, and one of her colleagues, one of the people that she really liked in her life, and
I was going to say, speaking on what David said, Lunar Eclipse put a really thoughtful comment that I wanted to read. It was the reporter in her that drew her into this field, but it was the drive for knowledge to find the truth that kept her.
Yeah,
she was definitely a trailblazer because she documents her beginning of getting into the whole Dogman thing in her first book, The Beast of Bray Road, and she started out just writing articles for it in a local newspaper. So and I think that really touches on what David said about Linda's motivations for doing what she did for this field. It weren't for any monetary value or
yeah. You can move
thing.
over a little bit.
She just had a passion for this research, for this cryptid, for all of this unknown phenomena.
Yeah, and also she did it in a time where it was really risky to do things like that. I mean, she was definitely speaking up and being seen as, I mean, I don't want to speak too much about it, but she definitely was a trailblazer in the way that she came out and did that and introduced a lot of people into it, and also paved the road for a lot of other people to follow behind, and made it easier for them to, get into the subject or speak about their own experiences, because they had someone out there that was writing these books that they could say, that they could see and understand, like, hey, I'm not alone here, and that there's people out there who care about this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't be here, researchers and experiencers alike, but wouldn't be part of this community if it weren't for her. If she wasn't the first to step up and be willing to endure all the perceptions and ridicule that come with admitting to your belief in cryptids, a lot of people would still feel alone. They'd still feel very much like they have no one to talk to or no community to turn to,
Yeah, and when you look at what she brought to the table, and I feel honored to have known her and been able to learn from her, and I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for her. I never would have gone to tell my stories if it hadn't been for her, because I had actually corresponded with her, and it was just, I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people have that sentiment too.
Yeah. I mean, when me and Lyle were talking about it, he was talking about how her journalism was one of the things that inspired him. And her books epic. I mean, if you haven't read, still to this day, Hunting the American Werewolf is one of my favorite books. I mean, I can't even stress it enough that if you haven't read her books, you got to read them.
Yeah,
Hold on.
pioneer. That's the word I was.
Yeah,
thinking of.
pioneer. Hold on one second, folks. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, dude, the echo. So, anyways, folks, we got some technical things we have to take care of here. I'm sorry about that. The chat needs to, the thing zeroed out there. You want to fix that there? Okay. All right, folks. So anyways, let me make another call here. It's going to be much easier if I just do it on the phone. It's just going to, I can't use these headphones. Sorry.
I have them on them.
Hmm?
So you can take the headphones off.
Yeah, I'm not going to use them. Ridiculous. See if everybody can hear me. Hopefully the sound comes through. See if you can make it, if it comes through. The headphones are messed up. Hey, James, how you doing? Not much, man. I'm just doing my show here tonight, and we were talking about Linda Godfrey. This is a tribute to Linda, and I know that you were one of her friends. Folks, this is Dark Waters. I call him James, but it's just Dark Waters. You want to say hello to the audience?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you all are doing well tonight. Man, you know, Linda, I don't even know where to start when it comes to Linda, the honor that she should be shown. I've always called her Mama Dogman, and it's, for me, when I first came in, coming into this, I didn't know much about Linda. It was kind of like I got in, I started doing interviews, and then the young lady who was working for me under PR at the point in time, she said, I want you to talk to this lady named Linda Godfrey. And I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll talk to anybody. And so our first conversation, she just breaks it all down for me. She says, you know, if you want to be successful in this thing, you know, you want to make sure you talk to your witnesses, you want to document your conversation with your witnesses, you want to track where the locations were, try and get dates and times. And she's the one that taught me the journalistic approach to it. Like, she's the reason why I have data points. So I can say, okay, this happened this day, this time, and I can make these correlations. And I mean, it's such a great loss to the community. It's just a sad thing, man. It really is a sad thing to lose somebody like that. My greatest regret is that I wish I could have spent more time talking to her. I enjoyed all the conversations we had. We had some very phenomenal conversations about the industry and how people like me and you, Josh, and other people needed to turn a corner to where we were doing like our own documentaries and our own things because of how, you know, TV shows would pay you only $200 or $500 to be on the show. And it was just some great conversation. She was chock full of knowledge, man, and I'm gonna miss her.
Yeah, and she was very real. She wasn't afraid to talk about. She didn't pull any punches. There were certain people that we that we both know that we had in common with her, and she would break it down straight up. She didn't play around. It wasn't no joking around or anything. She was straight up, and that was the one thing that we all respected about her. And one of the first conversations I ever had with you, her name came up, and I remember you having the utmost respect and reverence for her. And I thought very highly of you after that conversation because you gave her a lot of respect. And like I said before, she was the first person I ever corresponded with in this field, and she gave me the courage and to come forward and to we covered a few cases together too, which was cool, and she was one of those people that I think all of us together kind of evolved like our views on this subject. I know that we've kind of, me, you, and Barton and a few other people, we started off, hey, these things are just this way. And then after conversations with one another, we all kind of started switching and saying, hey, maybe this isn't, and Linda had the courage to finally come forward and say, hey, this isn't what we think it is. And she was one of the leaders in this field that kind of brought it home for us and brought it together. For us to, so, it to me, I guess it's hard. It's like I was telling David earlier, it's hard now that it's real, it's like, I hope that this brings all of us together, closer together. Like you said, she was like mama, and now it's like, we're all like siblings, so we have to come together and rally around each other and be there for each other because it's just hard, it's just, I don't know. And I appreciate you coming on tonight. I'm having some technical difficulties, and so I'm trying to get your audio, and they said my audio is kind of loud and they can barely hear yours, but that's my fault. But
and one of the things we had a conversation about, I believe this is the last time I spoke with her, she said, James, we need to get a lot more women into this field to get their perspective on it. And we had a deep conversation about how cryptid activity in the woods with female researchers, there's a lot more activity. And I was like, well, Linda, I don't know how we get ladies to, leave the house and go out into the woods and trench around in the woods looking for Dogman and Bigfoot. I said, it's really a thing that guys like to do. And we kind of powwowed on it. And she said, well, we need more of it. We talked about the conventions, which is one of the things you did. Congratulations, that there needed to be more conventions and more times for us to gather specifically about this particular topic. And then one of the things that really got me was when there was a lot of beef going on. It's kind of quiet nowadays in the community, but back then it was a whole bunch of beef going on. Never forget, she called me one night and she was concerned. She said, I'm really worried about this topic. She said, because there's so much confusion and drama going on. She's like, I'm hoping that the topic kind of survives this. And I said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. But it was a struggle for leadership in the topic at that point in time. And I told her, it's going to be over soon. Just relax. And she was like, okay, I trust you. And then it quieted down like it should. So, I mean, I'm going to miss her. She's a phenomenal person. And it's a great loss for all of us, man. And the best way to honor her is what you're doing right now. And then honoring her and elevating her, and then calling for people to come together and do what needs to be done. And that's the perfect way to honor her, because that's who she was as a person. She wasn't with all the foolishness. She was just about getting information out there and taking care of business.
Yeah. And the thing is, I remember, when me and her had some conversations about the whole, because, let's not pretend here. Me and you had a feud with someone, famous feud, not me and you, but we were on the same team, but we had an issue with some people, and she was very much in our corner on that. And she was concerned. She was worried, and she didn't like the direction that these individuals were taking this subject, because she thought that they were spinning a narrative. And she said that, and she told me, she told Barton, and I'm sure you know that. And so we had to bring it back, and we caught a lot of flack. What people don't know is that there were a lot of conversations behind the scenes that went on, and she did give us a lot of advice and try to lead us, and me and you were on the front lines of that. and we took a lot of heat. But the bottom line is, we were trying to be about the truth, and these other people were just being about whatever, what makes them get views and look good and whatever. And that's one of the things that she did like you, and she did support you, and she liked Barton, and she liked, that's why I'm bringing people on tonight that she told me personally that she was friends with. And that's why I wanted, to bring on people that she personally, because, and she really did want to go to the conference, and we missed you at the conference. You were the other person that I think if you and her would have been there, people always say, well, that was a perfect conference. It was the best. And I said, if we would have had Linda there and then DW, then it would have been the perfect conference.
Well, if there's another one, I can guarantee you I'll be there, so don't worry about it. And I agree with you. She was concerned about the narratives, and because there'll be people who say, "Well, he's making up." So no, she was concerned about the narrative, and she was concerned not only the narrative, but she was concerned about the constant drama that surrounded that narrative, and I think she was satisfied with how everything worked out after it was all resolved, because it needed to be resolved and moved in a different direction. And you can see where it's all moved in a different direction. It's getting ready to move in another direction again, as people start bringing out more and more truth and bringing it to the table and really asking questions, as opposed to just accepting what they're told. So I'm excited about where we're going in the future. I don't like the fact that, we took the loss of losing an icon like Linda, but the truth of the matter is she's going on to be with Christ, and that's a beautiful thing. And we know where she's going, and that's where the comfort is. It's not like we don't know who she was. We don't know that she wasn't saved. We know who she was. We know she was our sister, so she's going to be fine. And she's made a contribution. So I just say she did a great job, and I'm pretty sure at the pearly gates they told her, well done,
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on, DW, and we'll be in touch. We're going to be doing some work together, me and DW. We got another project coming up that we're going to do some work on, and we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep doing what we do. And I appreciate your help and guidance and mentorship that you've offered me and you've given me, and I appreciate the support. And, I appreciate your friendship, and I know that she would be proud of us and what we've accomplished up to this point. But we're still moving. The ship's still going. We're not done.
Awesome sauce, bro. I'll talk to you soon, man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Good talking to you, brother.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you. Good night. So that was Dark Waters. That was another friend of hers. Folks, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to level with you, dude. I mean, Linda was giving us a lot of advice when all this stuff was going on. She wasn't on the sidelines, and I'm not saying that, with her being ill the last couple years, she still was there talking to me, talking to DW, talking to Barton, talking to all of us, and encouraging us to be strong. They made a conference, okay, in Wisconsin and didn't invite her. That's how strong these people were trying to push the narrative. Dogman is a household name because of her. Okay,
they have everything they had because of her. So, without her we said it before, without her to pioneer, no one would be able to be so forward with speaking their views like we are now. Mm-hmm. I mean, someone had to take the brunt of all the people throwing snide comments or being rude or just looking at you foolishly because of your beliefs. Someone had to do that, and it was her.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize they're standing on the shoulders of a giant in this field.
Yeah. And, some of the things that went on against her were pitiful. Mm-hmm. Absolutely pitiful. And folks, I'm a real person, and I'm going to sit up here, I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to tell you like this. I'm not a guy that's going to get up there and do a eulogy for somebody who I can't stomach, okay? Because I just can't make up stuff and go, oh, this person was great, and what do you say about somebody who's passed on that's not a good person? They picked up their dry cleaning. They what did they do?
They breathe a lot of air.
Sometimes they wash the car. They kept the car clean. I got nothing. But with her, it's like you're not blowing smoke. This is a person who is my friend, I was very close with, and I'm very looked up to and respected. And she always encouraged me. There were times when I thought, man, I can't do this, you know, and it's just, it's hard. And I wish that, you know, I'm writing this book, and I wish that I could get that out. I could have got it out before she passed, but I couldn't. And she wouldn't have been able to do a forward for me because she was gravely ill. And that's one thing that I lament, you know. And then she couldn't do the conference, you know, because of her condition. And it you know, like I said, if her and DW would have been at the conference, it would have been complete. But it you know, it is what it is. And so I'm going to tell you something. I went over some very strange cases with her, and she turned the corner before she passed. Okay. And I'm not trying to speak for somebody. I'm telling you right now, this is the truth. I'm laying it out there. Barton, DW can all tell you this. This is the absolute truth. We covered some cases. Me and Ken talked about it last night, and that were very odd, very weird. And she was willing to come out and take the ridicule. People going like, oh, our people are shape-shifting and whatever and blah, blah, blah. Dude, if you only knew the conversations that we had, if you could only see. I'm going to give you a story now, okay? And then I'm going to do another call. But I'm not going to make this about me or any, you know, this is about Linda. But this is a case in point right here, okay? She covered some very weird oddball cases. She was willing to do that. She was not afraid. These people that were like, oh, they want the Dogman to be a flesh and blood. It's an animal type thing. You hear that all the time. People talking about it's an animal. Emphatically, she was like, no, it is not an animal. And I've said this on my show many times before. Where she stood with that and talking about how these things are interdimensional, they come from portals. It took a lot of guts to come out and stand against what the established narrative was, and even kind of change her stance on it, which she led the charge in that. I wasn't the first one to do that. I wasn't the first one because I was the dissenter to some people. No. And I didn't go and influence her and say, hey, check out this. This is what we should do. No, we came to these conclusions together, all of us. Some of the people who are at the forefront of this, who aren't trying to just get views and get people to come on the show and babble on about nothing, which is what some of these people are doing. Let's be honest. And then they make a conference and she's not even invited. And then they lie and try to steal her work, which is what they did. Two people in particular. You know who you are. But we're not going to dwell on that. I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. Here's a case in point. Now, I made a mistake though of the location. It was actually my wife said it was actually in L.A. And the other one that we talked about was I said it was in Charlotte. That's a different one. Okay. So this was in L.A. as this is for Tony and Anthony. There's a guy who's a security guard, and I kid you not, this guy, he's a really cool dude, and he kind of looks like Snoop Dogg. I'm not joking. I'm like, seriously, we kind of tease him and say he's shorter. He's a shorter guy. But he's a really cool dude, and I got to know him. So he was telling us a story that happened to him when he was a security guard in L.A. And I'd confused it when I was telling the story to Anthony and Tony earlier. It was I said that was the one from Charlotte. That's a different one. I'm going to tell a few stories tonight, but I'm going to tell this one. Okay, now you tell me what you would do. Now, I've discussed many of these strange cases with Linda, and Linda has told me, and she had some here in Austin that were just really weird. If you go back and read her books, starting with Beasts of Bray Road, read Hunting the American Werewolf, I look them up. Look up the books. Look up one of y'all. Look up her books. Everybody's coughing and sneezing over here. Everybody's sick around me, folks. I pray and hope that I don't get sick. My wife's sick. Everybody's sick. But her books, if you go back and you read, there's tons of stories, and there's a couple out of Manor, out here in Austin, and just this whole area. She covered some cases, and we went over some stuff, me and her. And I can tell you right now, there was no explaining some of these, okay? This guy was a security guard. He was working in front of a loading dock, like a warehouse. They had some people try to rob it. So they ended up getting an armed guard. This guy was an armed guard. He's a pretty cool dude, and I know him. And he gave me this story. He said, one of these days I'm going to tell you this story, and he did. And so what happened was, I think it's called Industry City or Industrial City or something like that in L.A. So he was sitting at this loading dock, and he was watching, and there was this sidewalk across the street from where he was at, and he saw this guy walking down the street wearing a black trench coat. Okay. And he said, you could see there's like this yellow hazy lights that they use, but he could see the guy clearly. And he was a very tall guy. He said he's probably about 6'5", the guy. And this guy was coughing, but he was making noise. And then he started to talk to himself, and he thought, okay, another crazy homeless person. I mean, that's what his thoughts were. And he said this guy was walking down the street, and he thought, it's just another, crazy.
Being a security guard,
Yeah,
we all know
you see him all the time.
Yeah.
So he just went back to what he was doing, and he goes, I wasn't really being a good guard. I was playing on my phone. He goes, but I was bored. It was 3 a.m. There's that number. And he looks up, and he's like, he's got cameras that are kind of trained on his vehicle. City of Industry, that's what it is. So anyway, he's sitting there, and he's looking at this guy, and then he looks down at his phone, and then he hears this, what he described to us as a roar, and like a growl, and then a snapping noise, and then he looks up, and where there was once a guy, there was what he claims was an 8-foot-tall upright canid, black, big, huge head, snout, or whatever, and it wasn't paying attention to him at all. And he said, dude, all I could think to do, and this only happened a few years ago. This wasn't like no long time ago, and he had a phone. So people were like, oh, why didn't he take a picture? Well, I don't know how good a picture you're going to get through your windshield, especially when you're ducking down below your dash to try to hide from this thing. And so he had the phone in his hand. So he goes to call 911, and he's like, what am I going to tell? He told me, he's like, Wolf, what am I going to tell the police? What am I going to tell them? I just saw a homeless guy either be killed by a werewolf, which he didn't really see it happen, or a homeless guy turned into a werewolf, or there was a homeless guy and then there was like he's like, I don't know what to say.
They're in cahoots.
So he did call 911, and he's hiding under his, but then he lifts his head up and it's gone. The thing was gone. It was real quick, and he said there was a little hill right there, like it could duck down and go around the corner. And he thought, what was I looking at? What was I seeing? What was this thing? Okay. That became an 8-foot-tall werewolf. Now, I asked him. I turned it back on him. And jokingly, I call him Little Snoop. And I said, Snoop, what do you think it was? And he says, dude, I think that guy became a werewolf. I think he turned into a freaking werewolf. And I said, what makes you say that? And he says, well, there's a driver named Darren. He said, when Darren came back about 5 a.m. from doing his deliveries, whatever, he said, I told him what happened. He said, dude, I've seen this thing before. A few blocks down the road, he goes, I was coming around the corner one night and my lights illuminated this werewolf-looking thing, and it got down on all fours, almost like a gorilla, and it ran into the it was like a ditch that it went down, and then there's like this culvert-like thing, like it goes underneath a road, so that's where it ran. And he said, dude, I watched it. It was crazy. So he goes, well, I'm afraid that maybe the guy that I saw was attacked by this thing. Maybe he's dead and he fell over the side or something, So they got in this guy's pickup truck and they went and they drove around. They looked. He said they shined the flashlight. He had a real strong flashlight like the ones we use. He's a security guard. He did his due diligence. The police came an hour later, and they were like, oh, well, nothing to see here. And they took off. I mean, it was, it's L.A. What are they going to... people are being shot and killed all the time. A guy calls in and says, a giant wolf-like creature, what are you supposed to do? I mean, So they drove around and nothing. And then he introduced him to another person, a female who worked there, who claimed to have seen something very similar. But it wasn't anything, there's nothing that we can say conclusively. Nobody saw a shapeshift or anything like that. I wish they had, but I mean, then you could say absolutely that was another one, but we don't know what that was. We don't know if it was a shapeshift. What do you guys think? I mean,
That's what I think. I think it was a shapeshifter.
I think it must have been very nervous to have him sitting there and waiting for this guy to come back. But the whole time he's sitting there thinking, is there just like a dead body on my site right now?
Yeah.
I can't go check because there's a werewolf running around.
yeah.
That must
Yeah,
have
he
been
didn't know what I would
nerve-wracking.
do at that point. I don't due diligence, whatever.
No.
I'm doing my due diligence for myself and going home.
Yeah, I'm shining like my flashlight out, and I'll be like, "Oh no!"
Y'all are
Right.
terrible guards.
Well, I'll wait for Darren to come back.
Okay. Yes, I'm a terrible guard against werewolves. Yes, absolutely. So are you.
Yeah.
So is everyone. So is
Yeah.
every security
Well, you
guard.
know what? Let me tell you something. If it was me, and I'm going to become brutally honest with you, if it was me, I'm a no-kill person when it comes to certain things, but other things, I'm sorry, but I mean, there probably would have been some pain flying. I don't know. I would have been, who knows? I mean, I'm not a gun happy guy. Like I have friends that are. I have a couple friends that are like, I wish somebody would, so they can,
Oh, yeah, they're
I got my
excited.
gun, and I'm like, okay, you got your gun. But I think I probably would have been. I don't know what there might have been something would have happened. I don't know. I'm not saying, but then again, what if hypothetically, I thought about this too. What if you shoot and then it was a shapeshifter and then it turns back into a human being?
Oh yeah.
Well, then
like-
it shouldn't
like
have
Van
shapeshifted
Helsing.
in front of me.
Well, no, he's saying that you just committed a murder
You just killed a man,
in the eyes of the
Yeah,
world.
and I'll face the legal consequences, but I'm not going to feel bad.
Okay, nobody's talking about you feeling bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
You're gonna have to deal with those
yeah,
consequences.
I'm
though.
going to prison then.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell him, look, officer, when I shot this guy, he was a raving werewolf.
Well,
It was not. Now it be.
I wouldn't-
I don't think you'll go to jail then. You'll definitely go to like a mental facility.
Nowadays though, I mean, you
I'd
kill
just be
somebody.
Like, hey, he come at me with a knife.
There is no mental facilities. They just put everybody in jail. Half of jail is just a bunch of people that should be in a mental facility. I don't know.
Well, in that case, I would say better safe than sorry. Just
I don't know what I would have done, but I'm not big on abandoning my post. But I mean, if you're sitting in front of, he had a way into the building. He wasn't trapped outside. Like he got out and went inside. And he told one of the ladies that worked there, which was the only person in the building besides him at that time. She locked the doors and said she'd seen something like that before. So there's something there that lurks around in that area. I'm not real familiar with that area, but obviously, some sort of werewolf. So that's a story, and then I'll tell you another one. But I got to make another call, and so we can keep the train moving here. So I got a message from Nick Redfern, okay? And so Nick said that he's working a 12-hour shift because even though he's an author who's written like 70 books, he still has to work. People think that, being an author or a podcaster, you make all this money, and you don't. That's not how this works, okay? Because if you're thinking I'm trying to be rich or something, this isn't gonna do it, okay?
I mean, we are trying to be rich. It just isn't the way it's going to be to get to it.
You have to do it with some other outlet because this ain't the way you make money. This is just, you make money, you have to pay taxes, but it ain't, you're not going to light the world on fire. And it's unfortunate that we moved to Friday, and a lot of people they're still saying that there was no show Tuesday. And I'm like, I told you it was on Friday. So, so we could go later. And
We even
whatever.
gave 2 shows last.
Yeah. And people, I guess, still didn't get the memo. So, but anyway, So Nick Redfern says he wrote an article on Linda's passing at the Mysterious Universe website a couple days ago. He says, you're welcome to use some words from the article. I did not have time, unfortunately, Nick. That's Nick Redfern. He has to work. And so anyway, that's Nick, but I'm going to call someone else now. Nick, God bless him. He's a great guy, and I hate that he has to work doing that because it's a shame.
Hey, it's Lyle.
Hey, Lyle, this is Wolf, and you're live on Paranormal Roundtable. Everybody, Lyle Blackburn. So, Lyle, what's going on? Me and you talked yesterday, and just was giving you a call so you could say a few words.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great that you're doing the tribute to Linda, and as with, I'm sure, the audience and yourself, it's really a shocking thing to get my mind around the fact that she's gone. Just a blow to
history of cryptid research and just what she's done, and she was just a really great person. And the one thing to me about Linda was that really appreciated her style of investigation, her sense of journalism that she brought to the to everything she investigated. Thorough investigation, a well-balanced view of the subjects, and an open mind. And she was really an influence on my own writing, just in that sense of the investigative journalism and the way she thoroughly would investigate these and thoroughly document the cases. And of course, the Beast of Bray Road is a great example of something that would just sort of existed out there as sort of a loose, discontiguous story. But the way she came in there and wrote the book and then followed up and continued to keep people up to date on the history of that as she found out more and as there were more witnesses, that it's just a great. She was just a great investigator. So that's kind of what she meant to me as as that example of a great writer, and also a friend. And we communicated throughout the years, and we did a Dogman conference back in 2016, which was a great honor to be there with her at that event. And we communicated off and on through the years. So she'll be very much missed.
Yeah. And when me and you talked, I say me and you and I, because you were an English major. So when I talked to Lyle, I'm like, he's probably thinking, man, this guy's worth. But when you and I spoke about Linda, you did tell me that she was an influence on you, and you respected her journalism, because I had asked you point blank about writing and had asked you about your influences, and you mentioned her off the top of your head. And of course, we had just done the Dogman conference in Tennessee, and she did want to go. And I know that there was one other successful Dogman conference prior to the one we did, and that was in 2016, and Ken was there and Linda, and she was telling us, she told Barton and I that she wanted to be at another one before, and fortunately she was already too ill to go to ours. But like I said, it would have made it complete if she would have been there. It would have been the best. And she really wanted to, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on and saying some words, Lyle. I'm going to let you run because I know you got things going on tonight, but I appreciate you giving me the time that you did and giving us and the fans and saying some words, because I know you're in, folks, Lyle's in the middle of something and he got away so he could make this call. We could talk. So,
well, it's an important subject. So definitely. And I always appreciate you and what you do and your fans who follow this. And I think it's just an example of how somebody like that, even if she is gone, her books will live on, and her research and what she started, and bringing the credibility to a cryptid like Dogman in going forward. And it's up to us, you and myself and others to kind of carry that on. And I think somewhere in the ether, I think she would appreciate that. So she'll always be remembered.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other day, whenever I was listening, cause you just wrote your book, Texas Bigfoot book, and it's about Bigfoot in Texas, and it's pretty good. And when I listened to you and Dark Waters talking, I felt like, wow, this is really cool. You guys, to hear you two talk, and it was a really good interview. And I know that Linda kept up with certain people, and I know that she could still hear and understand things. And I thought, man, I hope that she could hear this, because she really wanted all of us to work together and to that's what she wanted. It was one of the last things she told us. For us all to come together and be friends and not have dissension and all that. And I thought it was cool, just to hear you guys talking, and I felt honored to be both of y'all's friends, and I know that Linda would have been proud and happy of for the way that we're all working together. And I appreciate your friendship, Lyle. Thank you so much for coming on and saying some words. And I'm going to let you run, man. And
Absolutely.
me and Lyle, we'll work again together. We always do.
Sounds good. All right. Y'all have a good evening. Enjoy the show.
All right. See ya.
Okay.
So that was Lyle. So here's the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to make one more call, and then I'm going to tell you another story. Let me call this person. Somebody said something about the security cameras. The security cameras were trained on his vehicle, not on the outside where they could see this. Hey, Ken, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Wolf?
Oh, not much. I just so I'm doing this tribute to Linda, and like I had told you yesterday, I wanted to give everybody a call, and those that couldn't make it, gave me a message or whatever. But you're one of the people that she was very fond of, and so I wanted you to be on the air, and I appreciate you giving us this time. If you want to say a few words about Linda, and
Yeah, well, for sure, man. I'm honored. Thank you for doing this. You know, she was a sensational lady, as everyone knows, an outstanding researcher, and a major influence on a whole generation of researchers that are in the field now. And I'm sure you guys, some of your previous callers have already covered all that stuff. That she was incredibly gracious, giving of her time. I first heard of Linda back in the early '90s when the Beast of Bray Road story broke. I didn't get to meet her until about a decade later when her first book came out, and I was up visiting Bray Road for the first time. But early on, we had, like many other researchers, yourself and some of the other people you've had on. She was very giving of her time. We had long phone conversations where we would talk about all kinds of cryptids and ideas, and she would share her research. She was very generous in that way. I guess a couple things I'd like to point out, if it hasn't been pointed out already about her, despite the fact that she was a great researcher and very objective and stuff, I would consider her also a pioneer in cryptozoology, even though her main focus was Dogman. But she did investigate Bigfoot, and she collected Thunderbird accounts, and she and her son did an excellent documentary about Black Panthers. Mm-hmm. And she studied science, even though she had kind of a leaning towards the the Native American spirituality and other things. She would study paleontology, and she knew all of her fossil forms and things, and she was also could be very scientific. And she kind of, before her, there really weren't many female cryptozoologists. You had, Jean Marie Kaufman, Constance White, Arlene Gall. But then when Linda Godfrey came around, it was suddenly, I think it was a great inspiration to a whole generation of female researchers, not only of cryptids, but of paranormal. And I know a lot of excellent researchers out of Wisconsin, for example, that have, she's spawned a whole generation of researchers up there. Chad Lewis and Kevin Nelson, Tobias and Emily Wayland, Zelia Edgar, Jay Bachochin, Kimberly Poppy, Allison Jornlin. I mean, all these people are from her area. That's like her clan, and they're all outstanding researchers in her image. Mm-hmm. And so I think hopefully that she was a pioneer in terms of being a female investigator at a time when there weren't a lot of females getting involved, and now it's nice and encouraging to see a lot of younger female investigators kind of picking up the mantle in her honor. I think that would have made her very happy and proud. And the last thing I'd like to say is that she was funny, and a lot of people, I don't know if that's been discussed yet, but
she was.
In her books, she knew how to mix humor into her stories and her little cute subtitles. She drew funny cartoons. She actually started out as a cartoonist for the newspaper there, and she had some funny cartoons, and then she got interested in the Dogman and Beast of Bray Road and all that. But she was a very funny lady, and I think she would want people to remember that about her as well, that she had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, that she did, and joked with her many times about different things. And she would speak her mind to me too about certain people and subjects and things, and I like that candidness about her. It was, I don't know, it's just something that it's refreshing when you talk to people and they don't put on airs. And that's something also I have with you too. I mean, when we talk like normal people, there's no, like, we don't just say, "Oh, how's it going?" Pleasantries, whatever. No, we're friends. And she was like that with us, and I liked that about her. And yeah, I just know that your name is one of the names that came up when we talked, you know, and she was, like I said, very fond of you, and of course Chad. And I got to message Chad earlier today, and it seemed like it became more real, you know, when he was going in or whatever. And it was hard. That part right there was really hard. It was hard.
Yeah, it's a tragic loss. I mean, it's something there'll never be another. He was one of a kind, and but her legacy will live on because she's influenced so many a new generation of researchers to kind of, like I said, pick up the mantle. And hopefully she set a great example in terms of just being a very objective, open-minded, balanced, critical thinker. And I think she covered the topic in the right way.
Yeah. Well, Ken, thank you for coming on and saying a few words, and I appreciate it, dude. And good luck.
I'm honored, man. Thank you for including me. And again, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
I think Linda is looking down. She's, very honored, very humbled.
Yeah. So Ken Gerhart, everybody, and thank you for coming on and saying a few words. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. Definitely an honor.
All right. I'll see you.
All right. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye. So that was Ken. And, if I were to try to put on the show like everybody that she touched their lives and whatever, we'd be here until
Kingdom Come.
Yeah, until the end of time. But because she was an influence on a lot of people. And, I'm just going to pick, the people that I'm close with and I'm friends with, that are, but if anybody else is listening and feels like they need to say something or whatever, I mean, I understand, I have to know you. I can't just because I don't, if it's somebody that I don't know, I can't just put them on there and then you say something, but if I know you, you're more than welcome to try to say something, whatever. I appreciate any, whatever that people want to say. But anyways, it's rough, and when I went to Linda with a couple of these weird cases, because I was friends with a person who didn't let you tell those types of stories. And Linda was very much like, she's like, you need to write. And I'm like, I can't. I suck at writing, and I'm trying. Not my thing. Plus, it takes a lot of time. So mad respect for people that can write, but I'm not. I got a lot going on, as you see. I was like, hey, I'm going to have this book written by the end of the year. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen. But we do have some words written from some things that are done. I think I'm on page 2. And I'm kidding, folks. I think it's like 8,000 words or something like that. I don't know exactly, but there's some stuff.
It's page like 3.
Yeah, but it's several thousand words.
Yeah,
it's about like 20% done.
It's a
or
pretty
something.
big book. Yeah.
But we got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be said. Here's a story. Now we're doing the tribute to Linda Godfrey, and if anybody is not, they've been living in a cave, okay, then you are reptilian or the Kandahar giant. I'm kidding. If you've been living in a cave and you don't know, Linda Godfrey was the Dogman person. She was Dogman, So, I'm going to tell stories about that. That's what we're doing tonight, and I'm going to pull out some weird stuff here, okay. And I got this one. You okay? Coughing, man, and everybody's sick, man. So I got this one, and this one came out of Illinois, and I think it was in Decatur or something like outside of it, but it was like out in the country. But I think the closest was I think it was a town called Decatur or something like that, or maybe it was Antioch. I don't know. Anyway, it's a story that I don't have my notes with me. I was flying by the seat of my pants, and I didn't even eat dinner. I'm cranky and just didn't even get to eat dinner. And people are like, well, you don't need it. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I'm fat. I get it. So anyways, this story was told to me. These people, they were laying in there. Was a woman. She was laying in their bed, and she wasn't feeling really good. She'd been having headaches, and what's really weird is they had seen a bluish, greenish blue orb floating in their yard, and their dog was literally barking at this thing and jumping up at it. And she was like terrified. She was like, there's this glowing basketball-sized ball in her yard, and the dog is freaking out and going crazy. So she starts like screaming, get away from my dog, blah, 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 whatever. And the dog got really sick. When she went out to get the dog with this orb, it floated away. It didn't, and we actually, me, you, Tony, and Anthony, we were actually talking to an individual earlier tonight when we were doing some business work, whatever. And one of our, I guess we would be their client, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was telling us a story about an orb that did fly away from him. But this one didn't shoot off like he said. It was like real fast, whatever. This one just kind of floated and it went over the fence and it went away. Now, they live out in the country, but not like they live on like 2 acres. And the way they described it to me was like the next plot had like 2 acres and there's a house. And it's kind of like one of those older subdivisions where everybody had like a bigger plot of land. We have those out in the outskirts of town.
Right.
And those are nice because you have neighbors, but they're not like right on top of you, like tract housing. But they do live kind of rural. And the lady said that she was very ill after the orb. Her and her dog both got really sick. Now I'm thinking radiation. I mean, I don't know for sure, but and she said it was like 20 years ago, but she was sick. She's still alive and she didn't have cancer, knock on wood, but she was laying in her bed and she had the window open and it was a nice spring night, and she was enjoying the air, and she just was feeling ill. She had a bad headache and she had pain in her neck and her hands. And she just felt sick, and her husband came to her and brought her some food. When he was walking towards her, she was staring at her husband. She's like, I'll never forget. He was holding a bowl of soup and it just fell right out of his hand. And his mouth just opened wide and he was staring over her, and she saw this bluish, greenish light on her body. And she looked over to her right, and what was initially a bluish, greenish orb became a werewolf-looking creature. I'm not going to say Dogman because that's not the words that she used. She said this werewolf was standing there, and it was just looking at her. So it didn't blink. Its eyes were just like wide open. She looked up at its eyes, and she said that by the light of the moon, after that orb light had faded away, it was just standing. It was black. She said it was about 7 feet tall. And she said that it was staring at her, and there was no glowing eyes or anything like that. There was no, she just said it just looked like an upright wolf with an upper body, kind of like a man. And the window was open, the screen, whatever. And she said that this thing reached in through the screen and put its hand, like one of its hands, on her throat, not squeezing her throat, didn't choke her. It put its hand on her throat and then the other hand on her arm and was just holding her. Now, she said when that happened, her body began to vibrate and it looked like a greenish blue haze that kind of enveloped. And so she said that her husband ran to her side and began to pull her. And then at that point, this thing latched on and held on hard. And then it began to move its head into the window and open its mouth. Now this is where it gets even weirder. She said it wasn't trying to bite her. It's like she could look into its mouth and there was like inside of the back of its mouth, there was like a tunnel. It looked like a tunnel, and then she felt like she was fading out, and she was starting to go into the tunnel.
Into the tunnel.
She was going into the tunnel, and she was dying. And so the husband did what any husband would do. He ran and he grabbed the Bible, and he smacked it with the Bible which I would like to tell you that some amazing thing happened and this thing just let go, whatever, but that's not what happened. He hit it with the Bible and was yelling at it, but when he began to calm himself down, he put his hands on her, and this is what they said, and he began to pray. When he began to pray, he said, dude, I literally saw it close its mouth and let go, and it slowly just backed away and went out the window, and then he said it was weird the way, at this point, she doesn't remember anything. At that point, she was unconscious. It began to fade back into a ball of light that was small, like the size of like a tennis ball or a baseball. And it disappeared. It took off. Now, you listening at home, that is a very weird experience for anyone. I mean, you're not, these people, they always say, oh, I was out in the woods and I saw a Dogman, blah, 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 blah. What was that? Okay, was that a Dogman? Was that a werewolf? And these people who, like I saw this in the group, well, Dogman doesn't do this, it does that, Werewolves do this and Dogman does this. How do you know?
Says who?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand, because when you get a story like that and you're sitting there going like, what is that? And now one of the problems is that this couple gave their story to somebody in a group, and they were ridiculed and attacked until she took the story down. Because that's a problem in this community. And that's one of the things that me and Linda talked about on multiple occasions. How are you going to sit there and tell me, what is that? Okay? And now if that was just one, this is just one story from an elderly couple that says, hey, this has happened to us 20 years ago. They're in their 70s now, this is in their 50s. And they said, hey, 20 years ago, we had an encounter with a demon, which is the way they described it. People would, and then people say, oh, that Dogman, that couldn't be a Dogman. Dogman don't do that. Dogman doesn't do that. That's not Dogman. You know what Dogman does? Dogman doesn't do that. That's werewolves. Or some other kind of thing that, In fact, that can't even exist. That's not real. Your story's just crap. And then somebody said, well, why aren't people telling more stories? Like, you know why? Because of that. Because of the ridicule. I'm probably going to get ridiculed up here because I'm telling you, I'm repeating the story.
Well, it's not hard enough to admit that you've seen a werewolf creature, but then the circumstances of that story, especially, and I'm sure the circumstances of a lot of people's experiences are just as bizarre. But it's like you're taking bizarre on top of bizarre, and when they put it out there, they're ridicule, but not just by the average person who doesn't believe in any of this, but also by the very people who also believe in the Dogman cryptid, but
the Dogman phenomenon.
Yeah, in the Dogman phenomenon, but want you to believe in it the way they believe in it.
Yeah.
So it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Well, and consider this. They said, this thing's an animal, right? This is an animal. What animal? Okay, and the story's not over. Okay, this isn't the end. What animal can go through your screen window, reach its hand in, do what it did, and then come back out, and the screen is unaffected? How does that how does that happen? That's an animal. What kind of animal does that? And if you think that that's an isolated, you're wrong. You are completely wrong. The two guys right here across from me can tell you 100% that we get these stories. People say, well, they give you those stories because you do the paranormal or whatever. I'm like, and there again, what is Dogman? Is Dogman not paranormal? Paranormal, look up the definition.
It's not normal.
Literally.
What do you think it is? You think it's just ghostesses, and that's what you think? He's doing ghostesses. No. And I'm not going into a building going, is there some ghosts here? You want to fight? Come on, man. I'm going to rock your world, ghost.
Come on, brah.
Some spookies.
Yeah, brah. No, dude, that's not what we're doing here. Okay? I walk in there, and I just kick the ghost's butt. I just beat it all over the crap out of it. All over. I'm kidding.
I just start peeing to mark my territory.
I just pee because I'm scared. That's all.
I was going to say, it seems more ridiculous and actually more paranormal to think it's an animal, but yet not have any proof of it. I think that's more of a outside of the normal thing to be like, this right here, this is a spider, but trust me, you don't have to have any proof of it. I just believe it's a spider, so it's a spider. And if you tell me different, you're the dumb one. Like, how does that make any sense? How can anyone see that and think that their logic is correct? Like, if you have evidence, then show it. If you don't, then you can't say anything. As simple as that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that story was probably one of the most interesting ones I've heard yet. Because I mean, from her husband's perspective, he's playing tug of war with the Dogman creature, and the rope is his wife.
Can you imagine when they would get into arguments? He'd be like,
I saved you from a
"Just
demon.
let the demon take you in."
God.
Jeez.
And actually, that's what he did. They told me that. Yeah, that's actually what happened.
That would be the cruelest thing to hold that over someone
Oh.
forever.
See, he told me, he's like,
Like,
the
it's
other day
not
we were
hard
just
enough.
trying to decide where we were going to eat at, and I was like, you know what, I should let that werewolf eat you. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, we'll eat Taco Bell again. I'll spend the day in the toilet in the bathroom.
Now you have to
guess-
spend the rest of your life giving me my way because I saved you.
So no, but honestly though, there was I'm joking about that, and I'm not trying to make this into a jokey, laughy night or anything like that. I don't know, dude. I just look at this phenomena, and now, and ever since Linda's been not able, I've thought many times, I've had cases, and I'm like, I wonder what she would think of this. I find myself doing that with my mother. I want to call my mom and just be like, I wonder what my mom would think of this. Not necessarily the cryptids or whatever, paranormal, but the different things. And I can't call her. I can't talk to her. Same thing with Scott Martis. It's like somebody gave me a couple stories. I haven't done much water cryptids since he passed. And it just.
I was gonna say, someone put in a comment. Brenton and Linda are talking about the truth now.
Yeah,
Up there.
Brenton. I was gonna say, because I can't, and I can't talk to Brenton. I never got to talk to J.C. Johnson, to speak, and then I never got to, never even got to correspond with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. That's another one that was, God, and her books are pretty good. And so, So anyways, folks, give me 1 second and then I'm gonna make another call. I will be right back. Okay, folks, we're back. So we got a few things that are going on. Sorry about that, folks, and I don't want to. I'm just having a hard time here. I haven't eaten anything today, and I'm trying to keep up here. So let me make this call, and then we'll get back to another story.
Hello.
Hey, Barton, what's going on, man?
Oh, just sitting here watching you on the YouTube, brother. Talking about Linda.
Yeah, yeah. So, folks, Barton Nunley, Barton, you and I are pretty good friends, and Linda was definitely a mentor to us both, and we've had conversations with Linda on the phone together, and you stayed in relatively good touch with her right up to the end. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So Linda and I were very close. She's been my most excellent friend for the last 18 years, brother. So it's a really hard blow for me, and I know it's a terrible, terrible loss to the community, because Linda was truly an American treasure, and there'll never be another one like her. She was the queen of cryptozoology, and she inspired so many people. She was so kind, the kindest soul that I've ever spoken to in my life. And, she's just going to be sorely missed. She already is.
Yeah.
But she was brave, and if not for Linda Godfrey, most people right now would still be walking around thinking werewolves were just imaginary creatures, And I had a lot of people ask me, did Linda coin the term Dogman? No, she did not.
Mm-mm.
She hated that term.
Yeah.
She called them man wolves, which is really much better, much more accurate description of what people are seeing. But yeah, she did not like the term Dogman at all.
Yep.
I mean, well, we don't either.
We don't either. And,
right.
and some of the cases that me and her went back and forth on too, I would tell her, I'm like, this is not, and she's like, I know. It's like, but it came from Michigan. And no, she did not. And I was waiting for you to come on because I wanted you to say that. So I couldn't say it until you said it.
I could say, brother, that no one else could say. But, it's really, really hard to talk about Linda. She's still so fresh, and I'm still really depressed about it. It's hard to believe that she's gone, But everything that I did, she supported me 100%. We talked about every week, either on the phone or through text or email, right up to the point where she couldn't write anymore, So she always supported me, and I always supported her. When I first came online in 2005, she was one of the very first people who reached out to me after hearing my stories, and we were friends ever since. And she would send me copies of her books. She sent me copies of every book that she ever written, and she would send me the PDF files of the books that she was working on, and to let me read them and give her my opinion. And she was just so humble and sweet. There'll never be another one like her. And I loved her so much that I've never written a book that hasn't got her name in there somewhere. And I know my name appeared in a bunch of her books, but she was so nice. Back in 2007 when I did that Hunt the Dogman documentary, Linda came on there and appeared on that, even though she was going through cancer treatments and she didn't have all of her hair, grow back. And she said, Bart, you want to come on, or should I wear a wig? And I said, no, Linda, if people can't see your beauty, then they're blind. So you just come as yourself. And, she did that for me. And I don't think anybody else in the world would have done that.
Yeah.
Except for her, that's what kind of a person she was. And she was a dedicated Christian. So I know her place in eternity is assured, and that I take some comfort in knowing that. But the world's such a small place, it feels like, without her.
Yeah.
She really, really wanted to go to the conference. It broke her heart that she couldn't do that, And like you said, I was in contact with her right up to the very end, where, and this has been going on for 2 years, as you know. And it's not like, I didn't expect this to happen. And I knew it was going to happen because of her disease. I don't know, somebody's asked about it in the chat. I talked to Steve the last few times because Linda wasn't able to talk. She suffered from late stage Parkinson's dementia, and that's what got her. And such a terrible disease. I watched people with that. Letitia's grandmother had that, and it was just so terrible. But she didn't deserve that, for sure. She was one of the kindest, nicest ladies on the whole face of the earth. So it's just a crucial blow when, like I say, there'll never be another like her.
Yeah. You're right. And I saw, like when you and I would speak to her on the phone, how close you guys were,
Right. Yes.
and she was like, she thought the world of you. And I just, the fact that she talked to me and respected me made me feel better about myself, because I was nobody in this field. And I had a lot of information, and I was real excited and full of energy, but I was kind of like a puppy with oversized paws. I was, trying to feel my way through this, and she was the first person that corresponded.
Right. Same for me, brother. I mean, I come online and no one had ever heard of my name. I was just some hillbilly from Kentucky that had a lot of crazy stories. But like you say, she was one of the first ones to reach out and start talking to me. And I just want to say that I feel so honored and blessed to have had her friendship for 18 years.
Yeah. And you're fortunate for that too.
Right.
I'm envious of that. That's something that, and I appreciate you coming on and talking, and one of the things that I wanted to say while you were on here, and I think you and I, and DW for sure, and a few other people, we all share a very similar view of Dogman. In fact, just about everybody that's come on tonight, that Linda, one of the things you said to me was that she was brave to kind of do an about face, because she, like all of us, kind of started off believing that this thing was just a flesh and blood, just creature that just run around out there all the time looking like it, and then we've all kind of turned and been like, wait a minute, if you take in all the evidence, and these are her words, and Tony, you can attest this because you were on the phone when we talked about this, when you and I had a conversation with her, and we had just done the show, and we talked.
Yeah, this was afterwards, right?
After the show. She says, if you take in all the evidence, she goes, there's no way that this thing is just one flesh and blood type thing. There's no way. And Barton, she said that before, and Tony, you know it too.
I think I remember specifically because I said lack of evidence too.
Yeah.
The lack of
talking
evidence.
about the lack of evidence, and she said there's a reason for that. And she talked about how they came out of portals and they did all these weird things, and she's like, and at first she was not really interested in talking about that because of the ridicule, and then how hard it is to try to get people to buy into that, but I couldn't understand, like what I told her one time. I said, I don't understand how people can buy into the opposite. How is there some sort of man-wolf creature that runs around out there all the time looking like that, with no pants on? Okay. But I don't understand it. I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and what Ken said earlier about her, she did have a sense of humor too.
Oh, so great.
And she would laugh, and she would just be like, she's like, when I draw, one thing she said, when I draw the cartoons, sometimes I feel like I should put clothes on them.
She had a great sense of
She
humor.
was hilarious. And so,
She would hand draw these Christmas cards and send them out to.
Yeah.
I don't know who else she sent them to, but she sent me one every year, and they were so well done and funny, and she was a true gem and an icon. And like I say, without Linda, we would all still be running around in the dark, because she actually brought the subject of Dogman out into the open, and she was the first really person to do that I can recall, and gave the subject some credibility, and let everybody know that there was actually people out there seeing these things. And it's a shame that she's not here, because Dogman is, as you know, in the last couple of years, it's kind of been a hot topic, right? It used to be Bigfoot, all other humanoids were just like flights of fancy, but in the last couple of years, Dogman has really risen to prominence in the field, and she really couldn't really enjoy that, and
Yeah.
she deserved to be here to enjoy that because, like I say, she was the queen of cryptozoology, and there'll never be another one like her. And her passing was really just terrible thing.
Yeah. And even though we knew it was coming, it still didn't make it any easier. And, there were, like the thing with the conference, I still, and I know I shouldn't be like this, but when somebody passes, sometimes you still have axes to grind, and I'm still that way. I'm still, and I'm still kind of bitter at certain people because, why would you make a conference where she's from, take credit for her work, and then not invite her? I cannot understand for the life of me understand that. And so, I know today's not you're supposed to be like, hey, whatever, but I am who I am, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I've talked with you about this, Barton. You know how I feel. And there's certain people that they stole. They took her, and she felt very strongly about that, and I didn't want to do it while she was alive because I knew. But I just wanted to clear the air with that because as well as I do that these people did what they did and they besmirched her and that's not cool. And they know who they are. There's a couple of them in particular, and I just it sticks in my craw.
I was going to say, like,
right. Well, I can promise you one thing, brother.
To her specifically.
Anyone who disrespected Linda will never be friends with me.
Me
Because
neither.
Linda and I were, I just regret that I never got a chance to meet her. You and I were supposed to go out there in October, but Steve called and said, she's not really feeling up to it, so we had to back off on those plans.
Yeah, and May too. We were actually going to go in May, and then she took a turn for the worse at that time, and we had already started looking at travel plans, and we were gonna, and that was supposed to be the first time you flew, wasn't it? Then you ended up no, okay. Because I thought we had talked about you were going to fly, or no, wait. I guess I was going to fly.
Yeah,
and then we were going to come back down.
6 or 7 hours from me.
Yeah, that's right. And then we were going to come back down to Kentucky, and that was before the conference. We were going to look at the building and whatever and get a feel for it. And then we ended up because she couldn't. She took a turn for the worse, and it was kind of up and down. And then, we decided, hey, October, and then nope. But yeah, it's just unfortunate, and that illness robs people of their dignity, and it I hate it. I hate that it exists.
I hate to even think about it, honestly, and because when Letitia's grandmother had it, we cared for her, for 4 years, and her bedroom was right across the hall from my office, and when she got that dementia, it was really, really scary, because I could hear her in that bedroom talking. She'd be talking to people that had already passed on, and it's just it's such a bad thing, She was talking to Letitia's dad, who had just passed on, and it just creeped me out so bad, I was in there writing something, and I heard his name was Danny, and she said, Danny. I heard her say, Danny, what are you doing? What are you doing here in my bedroom? Why won't you talk to me? And what's that on your face? Will you take that thing off your face and say something to me? And she kept, why won't you talk to me? So, it's terrible to think of my great friend going through that and being a prisoner in her own mind. And, Steve told me that she could understand people just fine, but she couldn't respond. So, just a terrible thing, brother. And like I say, the world just feels like a small place right now.
Yeah. Well, Barton, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to finish this show. And
thanks, brother, for doing this, for Linda. Love you for it, man. And it's an honor to be a part of it, and an honor to talk about my most excellent friend. And, please, everyone, say a prayer for her husband, Steve,
yeah,
and her sons, Nate and Ben. They just laid her to rest today, so they're having a really hard time. So everyone, please say a prayer for them, if you will.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Barton, we'll talk again. You know, we got things to do together, so.
Right. Okay, bro. You have a good night.
Yeah, you
Good
too.
night, all you paratroopers.
All right, good night, Barton. So. Nick Redfern just messaged me, and he wanted to make sure that everybody goes and checks out the Mysterious Universe. So go and check that out, because he's, you know, that's his way of contributing. He has to work, like I said tonight, folks. Sorry, I don't know what I'm stepping on there. James Estrada, my esteemed colleague and apparently my moderator, has decided to correct my grammar, I guess. Besmirch, learn to pronounce verb past tense, but you said it. Pronounce verb past tense is all one word. So very poor grammar on your part, James. Besmirch damaged the reputation. Okay. Anyway, I put my glasses on because you wrote it very poorly, my friend. So learn, and then he put pronounce verb past all in one word.
What is the saying? Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Yeah.
You realize when you type that there's a screen in front of you, right? And it shows all the little letters that you type, and you can read it before you hit the send button.
I think he might have just copied and pasted it, it seems like.
James, don't do that, man. Don't do it. Yeah. Anyways, there were people that did and said things, and I'm not going to get into it today, but you know who you are.
Yeah, I thought so.
I don't want those people popping up later on and acting like they're, you know. I'm sorry, but I'm drinking water on the show. People very hypercritical of everything I do. I would like to eat a stabilized bar, but I would be chastised and called a heretic and drummed out of this field.
Not by anyone important.
How dare you be hungry?
How dare you eat?
So here's the thing. Going back to the Dogman thing. When you look at the mountain, I'm talking mountain of stories that are absolutely ignored, and the Bigfoot thing too, they ignore it too. And there's one thing that me and her talked about on multiple occasions. And okay, James says it was copied from the interwebs and translated. James, don't blame the interwebs.
He also said it was for others to understand what the
blame
word
yourself.
meant.
I know James is a good dude. We're just messing with you.
Yeah.
We're just hacking on you. You know, here's the thing. You know, one of the things that she did in her books is come out with these oddball cases, and I know that Barton had been working on her for a while and telling her, look, you got these stories, they gave them to you. Tell them the way that, you know, and it just so I'm just glad that she did, because it gives my work more validity, because I'm over here trying to tell people this is what I'm seeing. This is what, I mean, I'm not seeing, but what I'm reading and the stories that we're being given, and this is what's happening. And we're not, it's like we're being, by these morons, they're like, oh, Dogman, you know, splashing blood. That's not splashing blood. It's an animal. The animal known as Dogman. It's going to be discovered one day. No, it's not. It's not, and it's never going to be, okay? It's not. I'm sorry. It's going to sound like Christopher Walken. It's not going to be discovered. You're a fool. It's just because it's a metaphysical, not a just permanently physical thing. And I'm sorry if you know, and Linda believed that, and if you had any respect for her work, then you would understand. Go back and read the books. You know, she told us, you know, like in her books, and thank you for the donations, by the way, Solo, Lunar Eclipse. I greatly appreciate it, especially with the move and everything else. It's appreciated big time. But it's I can't tell you enough that this was, something that I got from her initially, because when I first started studying this phenomena, I did the same thing. I was kind of like when somebody would give me a story that didn't fit what I thought the narrative was, I'd be kind of like, oh yeah, right, whatever, dude, But when you do that, you're doing a disservice to everyone in the community, even yourself, because you're totally ignoring everyone who doesn't have the same opinion or belief as you, and you're basically you're only getting a small portion of the story.
Gatekeeping.
You're gatekeeping.
You're gatekeeping.
And she was very adamant that she felt bad that that she had one time was on that side, just and then realized hey, there's a lot more going on here than what we once thought, and so she was very dedicated in trying to get all of the information out. And now with the people that I've chosen to work with and deal with, I believe that we're going to move forward, and eventually these people who want to push this one animal narrative thing, whatever they got going on, it's going to fail. Because there are too many people with too many stories that just don't, and here's the one out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, I'll tell you this one. These people were at a little house party. I would say house party. It was an apartment party. And they decided they wanted to get more beverages. Okay? Not going to lie. They were drinking. They said they were drinking. There were three people, a guy, two girls and a guy. And they decided to leave the party to go down to the local, not liquor store, but the corner store or whatever, to go get some beer. Mm-hmm. And I asked them, you have to ask these questions. And I said, how much have you had to drink? I was like, how much have you had to drink, kids? Oh yeah, really? You think you're cool?
Can
so
I see your
started
ID?
interrogating them. I'm like, what do you got in your pocket? What's that in your pocket? What do you got in your pocket?
You got some ID? I can check out.
Show me your pocket.
Because it looked interesting. What you put in your pocket?
What you got in your pocket there? Pull it out. No. So what I did was I asked them interrogatingly. I was like, how much have you had to drink? And and I did ask them that question. And one of them said 2 beers. The one girl said I didn't. The other, I didn't talk to her, but he said she didn't drink. And then the other girl did talk to her, and she said 1 drink. And the party got started a little earlier, and it was kind of a BYOB thing, so they had to go and get some. The store was like right down at the end, down past the apartment complex. It wasn't that big a deal. So like, hey, we'll just go for a walk. It's a nice fall night, whatever. They're walking down the sidewalk past an apartment, on the sidewalk in front of the apartment complex. 2 buildings down from the building that they were at. One of them looks up and says, what is that? And they said they smelled this weird sort of rotting smell, which on the last case, if you're wondering, I did ask about that, and there wasn't any kind of smell other than ozone. And they didn't say ozone. They described the smell to me, and that's what I came up with it. It was sort of an ozone type smell. This smell, they said, was like a rotting flesh type smell. And they said that part of the apartment complex, you could see the face of that part of the complex was dark. And so when they're walking up closer to whatever it is that's standing on the balcony of this complex, they look up and they see this thing standing there, and it is a black, shadowy looking thing, and it's moving around. And then it comes out of the darkness and leans over, and the apartment was all dark right there. It was on the 3rd floor. And they said that it leaned out over the railing, and you could see these hands that were like claws, and its head stuck out, and it came out into the light a little bit. And they said it looked like a wolf-like. And it was standing there on the 3rd floor of the balcony, and it looked like it had lowered its body so that its head wasn't rubbing against the top of the ceiling. on this balcony. A wolf-like creature standing up on a balcony. And as they began to walk past it, they looked up, all three of them, and they were like looking at each other, and they were like quietly, because they were terrified, and they were like, "Is that a werewolf? Like, is that a werewolf? Is that what we're seeing?" And they're looking up at it. And then it kind of backed off into the shadows again, and they just kept walking, and they walked past it. And then they were like, they went to the store. And then they called a friend and were like, "Hey, did you show up yet?" And the guy says, "Yeah, I just got her." He says, "Well, come pick us up at the store." And he's like, "Why? It's like 2 blocks. You know, what do you, you know?" And they're like, they don't care. They wanted a ride. So when they were driving by, they were like, "We saw something right there in that little spot right there." So, I mean, what do you think?
I think they made the right decision. I mean,
What was it?
Okay, so they saw this thing like on the patio of an apartment.
Of an apartment complex.
do you think it was someone who transformed and didn't realize it? And then he kind of went out like a skinwalker that transformed in his apartment and then went outside and didn't realize he transformed? Or was he getting ready to leave and then they saw him as he was leaving?
Or maybe it never even came from within an apartment.
Yeah, that's
maybe
true.
Maybe he was trying to get in the apartment.
Yeah.
Even worse.
I mean, something would have happened. They would have heard something in the morning, right? About something happening in those apartments if a creature like that was climbing in to do something.
I don't know. Or maybe it just manifested there.
Yeah, it's just weird.
There's no way to know anything.
Well,
I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, how did it get there? That's the main question.
we worked a construction site. Do you remember Realtex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we drove by it.
Oh,
didn't
God, I
we?
just said the name I shouldn't have said. Well, I mean, we have, but they don't
Well,
exist anymore. do
yeah,
they?
they're not. I think they're defunct now.
Okay,
so it
good.
doesn't
So I
matter.
didn't give it away. And we're now living down the street from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say we drove past it.
So we had a guard that claimed that one of the people that worked there, I can't remember which guard it was that told us it might have been, I don't know. Anyway, one of our guards that worked there told us that one of the workers that had come in one morning and they saw this big, what they thought was a hog, but it was actually a wolf-like. And he said wolf-like. It didn't go stand up on all fours, on 2 legs, but it was on all fours. But it like kind of was rooting around on the ground, and then they saw it kind of move, and then it turned, and then it was on all fours, and it's just for a second, the front, what they thought were paws came up, but it was like almost like hands, and then it got down and it ran. And I know that when my brother worked for that company for a little while, and I remember him saying that one time he was out there one night and he heard what sounded like a hog being in a big fight, like it was fighting with something, and he heard like what sounded like a wolf or something attacking something. And then one night he heard what sounded like coyotes, being killed by something. And when we were walking around toward that back, you remember the back fence line?
Yeah.
Okay. When we were walking around toward the back fence line, I saw 2 dead coyotes back there. It was not the very next day after, but 2 days after that. And I remember like this person saying that they saw something, like that. It was a worker. And I can't remember exactly which trade it was that had said that they had seen that, but they told my guard that, and then that guard told my brother. And of course, my brother's like, "Yeah, there was something out there that was going on, blah blah blah." And I remember several guards being very uneasy working out that site because the back was all woods. It just went all the way from there to the lake. It was just
there was
all woods.
nothing.
I did not like working that site.
Nobody liked it. It was very spooky.
And I worked it. I stayed up front by the road.
Everybody did.
Everybody did. And I did too. I'm not going to lie. I worked it too. And then the other one was the one in Georgetown where,
Was I? Did I know about this one?
I mean, you weren't working with us at that time, I don't think, because
But
that was the year that Scorpion
was this when I was working back in 2015.
Yeah, you were working.
Okay, yeah, then I wasn't.
You were
I wasn't with
still.
you.
It was
I was the main one working that site.
yeah. Well, Scorpion too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and I remember he was working it when that's when I had to drive from at home all the way,
Oh,
and that naked guy ran across the road. I mean, in the middle of nowhere between Leander and Georgetown. Well, anyway, out in Georgetown, and that's about probably I think it's about 10 miles roughly from Werewolf Church. What isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just about.
Okay, and then Zane and Scorpion both had like weird encounters out there. Like Zane was in the room, one of the rooms, and it was cold, and something was trying to get in from outside. He said it was banging up against it, and at first he thought it was like a person, and he went and he looked, and he didn't see anything. He just saw something like shadowy thing move. And then Scorpion, who I think he's in the chat, I remember him saying that something was moving around out there at night that looked, and at one point it got up and then it went down on all fours. And I know that right there on Parmer Ln, which is not far from where we're at right now, Scorpion had claimed that there were two wolf-like creatures that were on all fours. And at the time when he told me that, it was years ago, and it was sort of near the same place. It's all in the same area, And I just remember then like maybe probably a decade later, me and Dee, we saw those two, and I told you I showed you where it was at off of 45, Anthony, where those two wolf-like creatures, they went underneath the fence. And I can't say they were Dogman because like I said, they weren't standing upright, but they were really elongated and very big. And one of them was just going up under the fence. The other one jumped like over it. And it was real quick. And then they were in this long grass, tall grass, whatever. And I couldn't see it. But, some of these places out here where they build with these construction sites, dude, I'm telling you right now, I mean, I won't work them. I just won't do it. I mean, there's just too many weird, like one time we were off of Brody, and I was me, Squid, Scorpion, and Diablo, and I haven't had Squid come on the show yet. I want him to. He's always working. But we saw the largest wolf. It was the size of a cow. And it was absolutely a wolf. And it was just right there on the corner. I mean, it was like in a pasture walking. And we thought it was a cow. And they were like, that's a cow. So I slowed down and I was like, look. And then everybody looked and was like, that's a wolf. I was like, that's absolutely a wolf. Where these giant canines come from, I don't know, but they're everywhere. And when Barton was here, and we were driving around, he goes, dude, there's so much forested area out here. Bigfoot and Dogman could hide forever. Even built into the city.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you go right here, where this big complex was that we were doing, right across the highway. It's surrounded by woods. I mean, that's why they have the homeless camps out there and stuff, And these homeless people, they're sitting in a sleeping bag. I mean, it's basically a human burrito.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be funny, but I mean, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I would hate to be homeless, anyway. But out here,
Can you imagine the stories they have?
I mean, dude, this is. I mean, like I was, Barton, he saw what I was talking about. This is Dogman country. I'm telling you right now, I'm not joking. I mean, there's a reason why people out here see these things because they're out here. And I'm talking everybody from ambulance drivers, the people working at IKEA, law enforcement. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, I'm not saying everywhere you go, there's one. Oh yeah, don't be scared, But people see them. I mean, with a, I mean, what's the word? Alacrity, and then. People see them.
The sightings can happen anywhere. I think is the main point.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not just restricted to woodlines or rural areas.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
They're in town,
in places you wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah, Nellie, my wife, gets stories too, and she's ill right now, so I didn't get to go over some of the stories she had on her phone because I was going to do this. But she had some stories, and I think that one of them was talking about being in town. And she was talking about how they come into the cities And they are literally in the city limits of Austin. Now, if this, like I said, if this is just some flesh and blood creature, and this goes back to what, like with Linda, like I had talked to her many times about this. She got ill and she was wanting to come back on the show, but for the last couple of years she's been very ill and she didn't feel confident enough, and I wish we could have done more work, and we could have talked about this. It just didn't happen. Terrible illness.
And it's so much more terrible because she has such a wealth of knowledge and not being able to communicate much. Must be so painful, for everyone in the family. And I can't imagine having to deal with that, having someone that is so prolific in the community, that has so much to say and has done so much research into everything, so that she could have the answers that she wanted. Not being able to communicate those answers must have been so painful to deal with.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah, I get frustrated with that, but just with a perfect bill of health, because I don't know everything, but sometimes there are things that I do know and I do understand and I do have the answer to, but
you can't communicate it.
I don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah,
because it's like I wish I could just pull something out of my brain and just push it,
download
into
it into
yours,
somebody else's.
But you have to use words to communicate, and it's hard enough to do with when you're not in a state like that.
Well,
it's a tragic thing.
Here's another weird one. I got another weird story for you, and this one came out of. Well, there's a couple. Let me get this one out first. This one, if anybody has been to Texas, this was in a place called oh God, it's right outside of El Paso. My mind just blanked out. Van Horn? I think that's it. Look it up. Make sure that's correct. Right. I think it's Van Horn.
Pull it up on a map.
It's something Horn. But anyway, this person was pulling out of a gas station way out in West Texas, and I think it's either Van Horn or it was in Fort Stockton. I try to remember which one it was.
Fort Bliss, Biggsfield.
Well, Fort Bliss is El Paso.
You said just outside of El Paso?
Yeah, I think it's like on the road. Well, no, because El Paso's out in the middle of nowhere, but it's on the way. I think it's Van Horn.
Okay.
Is that the name of the town? I'm almost positive that's what it is.
Yeah, Van Horn.
Okay, it is Van Horn. Because I'm pretty sure I knew it wasn't Fort Stockton. I don't have my notes in front of me, folks. I left them. I was in such a rush and I spilled coffee everywhere.
Is on the same road on the way to El Paso.
It's on the same on I-10, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this person they were pulling into a truck stop, gas station, whatever, to get gas, and they were pulling out, and they were by themselves, so they don't have anybody to back up their story. But I believe them. And as they were coming, there's I know pretty much where that's at too. And if I'm almost positive it was in Van Horn. But this person they're not a Texan, and they're not from here. And so they weren't 100% sure, they were like, I'm pretty sure it was Van Horn, whatever. It's like a little spot in the road. Okay. And so they were pulling out, and it was late at night, and there was literally no one around. And when they got to the stop sign, and then they were going, I think under it's like the road goes like an overpass. I believe that's correct. I think I know where they were at. That's what I'm trying to say. This, whatever it was sitting up on a slope, like a cement slope, and it just came running down real quick, and it ran toward their car, or a truck, actually, they were driving a pickup truck. When they were rounding the bend to go left to go back onto I-10, this thing ran out and it punched their windshield. And now, when the person was in shock, when they looked up, this thing had, they saw it really quickly, and then boom, and then the glass was cracked, whatever. It didn't come flying in and all dramatic. It just broke the window, and then they punched the back window because it's a double wide cab F-250 truck, and they were like, "Who on God's green earth would come running out at 2 a.m.
Yeah, what's your problem?
and punch and punch my truck?" The description they gave me was the face. Okay, now this is a weird one. I don't know. I don't want to say this is a Dogman, werewolf, or a Bigfoot because I don't know what it was. But it was a weird, and it had sort of an elongated snout, but it wasn't really long. It wasn't overly long, like pointy, like a wolf.
Closer
But
to
the face had no hair, which is really weird. There was like hair here, and the ears stuck up straight, which made me think werewolf or Dogman. But the face had like, they said almost a cartoonish, and they thought for a minute that it was like a mask.
like
But
a
when they looked
like a
in the
pit bull?
rearview mirror, huh?
like a pit bull or like a boxer,
No,
more
they
face.
didn't describe it like that.
Well, I mean, like just the short snout.
I'm trying to think of the word that they used. Oh, they said there was like ridges on the forehead.
Uh-huh.
He said it was like ridges, and then when they saw it in the rearview mirror, that's what made them think that it was. But it had straight legs, like it, because I asked
Okay. So humanoid legs.
humanoid legs, yeah. But the upper body was like big and oversized, and it was about 7 foot tall. So it probably, I could rule out it being a person in a costume. It happened in 2019. It wasn't that long ago. And then that person got really sick, and they were going to give me their story, and they had COVID, and then I ended up getting the story. And then, so anyway, I was going to tell this one because it's a rather weird one. It was a bunch of weird stories I was going to tell tonight. And as they rounded the bend, they looked, and their window like started to fall in, like the pieces of the window,
Mhm.
and they were just like, they could see there was like a hole, and they were like, this thing began to like just run like across the road, not at them, just across the road. And they said that the way it moved was kind of like side to side, weird. The thing that really got me was that it had no fur on its face, and they said it almost looked like a cartoon of the Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds to me like a in between transformation.
Barton tells a story in Inhumanoids, folks, and if you haven't read Inhumanoids, I'm telling you, dude, that's the best. That's the best ever. It's when it comes to these Inhumanoids, is because that's what they are. I think another guy that we got to get to do some work with is Albert Rosales. He talks about humanoids and these creatures, and he's documented so many of them. And they're weird. I mean, you get some weird stories. But Barton talks about this. These kids were playing hide and seek, and one of the stories he had was of this creature that comes into when the kid's hiding under the bed, and this creature that comes into the room looks like the Big Bad Wolf, but wearing a suit. And I hadn't gotten a story like that until I'd say this is 2021. This is 2022. It'd be last year, but about a year and a half ago, probably. Because we're almost at the end of 2020, whatever this is. What is this, 2022? I had a story that somebody had told me. They were at a, not a, I can't think of my word, circus. What do you call those little like rinky-dink circus? A carnival.
Yeah.
Carnival. I'm sorry, folks. I'm tired. But anyway, they were at a carnival. And when they were a kid, they said that there was this clown that was like trying to, and this is weird, was trying to give them balloons, like they were like, what do you call them? Where they make the
animal
balloons.
balloons. Yeah.
So the thing was like, hey, the thing, because it was weird. And he said when it smiled, it had fangs.
Mm-hmm.
Not, like a mouthful of teeth like it. Because I asked that question, and he was like, no, it wasn't like it.
Like the two
Like
fangs?
canines were
Canines.
pronounced.
And this was a little kid. He said he was about 8 years old. And he was with his aunt and uncle and his 2 cousins and his mother and his dad. Sorry, folks. Excuse me. But his mother and his dad weren't there. His parents had been in a bad car wreck, and he was raised part of his life by his mom, by his aunt and uncle. His mother became a what do you call it when you get paralyzed? A paraplegic. And so he spent a lot of time with his aunt and uncle, you know, and it sounded like he had a very sad childhood, but this kid was terrified of clowns. I mean, he's not a kid anymore. He's like 35 or whatever, but when he was a child, he was terrified of clowns. And I was like, why? And he said, well, you know, this clown at this carnival tried to give me a balloon. And when it did, it opened its mouth and it had fangs. This story I was going to put in my book, and it's a really weird one. So if I put it in my book and you've already read it, okay, sorry, okay, excuse me, but this is a crazy story. So what happened was he went around, like he got away from this thing, because I call it a thing, and even his uncle was like, God, that's a really tall guy. You know, he goes was like about 6'9", 6'10", you know, not quite 7 foot, but really tall. And he said that the thing had oversized feet. And when he looked at the feet, like the bottom of the feet, like it looked like the toes were sticking out. Like he could see a couple of clawed toes sticking out the end of the shoes.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. And so he thought, man, you know, maybe. And so I asked the obvious question, is it possible that your memory of this is you've made it.
Right,
Hyped
because
it up.
everything
Bad
was bigger
situation,
when
you
were a kid.
exacerbated it by
Yeah.
thinking, oh, there's something, you know, whatever. And he's like, no, dude. He's like, this, my cousin saw it too. She saw it too. And I was like, well, can I talk to your cousin? Well, no, my cousin, you know, is not interested. She lives in Hawaii. I'm like, okay, well, so I got to take his word for it. Here's where it gets really messed up. It's not messed up enough, but they're going out to the truck to get in the car or whatever, or car. There was and he said that him and his two cousins, the mother had gone to the restroom, or she was using the restroom, and the uncle had, you know, and so they had an older cousin who was a few years older. There was a male cousin, whatever, and he said, "Come on." And he's kind of reluctantly having to babysit him and his cousin who was like a year older than him, you know, kind of like, I got to, you know, have y'all around me, whatever. And so he went and walked to the car with them, and all three of them are sitting there, and he had a couple little prizes, whatever they had won from the whatever, and they see the clown walk by, and the clown didn't speak, and he noticed that the clown's face was distorted, like there was a really slight muzzle sticking out of this, you know, and he thought, that's weird. This thing's face doesn't look right. And the makeup looked like it was hiding something. And so he says, I remember I was sitting there holding like a little Spider-Man doll, stuffed animal, Spider-Man thingy. And he goes, I dropped it on the ground. And he goes, I remember just like this seeing this big foot right there. And then then this clawed, elongated fingered hand goes to pick up the Spider-Man toy or whatever that he won at the throwing the darts where his uncle won him, and he lifts it up and he's like, he hands it to him, and he said that when he handed it to him, all three of them were just horrified at this being that was like a clown, dressed like a clown, but it wasn't a clown. He goes, dude, this thing was hiding, you know, it was like something. And he said, when I saw the hand, he goes, that there was hair on it. And you could see it going up the arm. And it pulled its sleeve down real quick, you know?
Gross.
And he said, dude, and when I looked up, dude, he goes, for like a couple of seconds. Now, when I asked him, I said, when you time it, would it be like 1, 2? And he said, yeah. He goes, it was like 1, 2. And he said, this thing went like something bulged out from like its jaw, like its mouth, it's in its nose, kind of like the nose flattened out for a second, and it kind of went, and then it went back. And he said that the clown had like a little hat on or whatever, and that when he had moved, it fixed its little hat. It was hiding like what looked like
An ear?
an ear that was on the top of its head, and what looked like ears right here, one of them was like hanging kind of like that, like it was fake. And I go, what in the heck? And I said, so I asked the guy, I said, Jay, his name, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I asked him, I said, what do you think it was? And he said, I think it was a freaking werewolf pretending to be a clown.
It sounds like he's wearing like a skin suit or something.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it was very
disgusting.
weird. He goes, dude, it gave me nightmares for years. I mean, absolutely years. And I said, what about the big shoes and then the toes sticking out the end? You know, and he said, well, you know, that's all. It's like it was pretending. You know what I mean? But he said that it had to have had really elongated feet, or, you know, maybe its foot kind of does like this, and the back of the shoe was fake.
Yeah.
And so I asked him about that. Now, here's the rub, and I'm going to say this, folks. Now, this person called me back 2 days later, or messaged me back, and I picked up the phone. I was like, I'm busy, and I hung up. No, I'm just joking. No, I talked to him briefly, and I said, look, you know, I said, there's more that you remember? He says, yeah. Now, maybe I gave him the idea, and then, you know, a couple days later, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. That is possible that I said something that maybe tempered this person's perception. Now, if I did, that's my bad. But the person did say that he goes, I do remember now the back of the shoes kind of flopping around. And I was like, but see, he didn't say that in the beginning until I suggested it. So it could be, and I'm trying to be as you know,
fair.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it is. You're being fair.
So maybe I did suggest something that this person then he goes, okay, yeah, I remember that, you know, or it's possible that I jogged his memory. But it was so weird, you know. Oh, and this was in Georgia, by the way. This was like in some small town in Georgia. I got to go look exactly what, you know, where it was at. But the thing is, you know, it was just, you know, it was so weird. And that this thing was walking around, and there was a guy that was kind of shadowing him and kind of like walking within about, you know, 20 feet of him. And he was kind of like leaning on a rail watching him the whole time, just kind of sitting there. And he said the guy was really weird looking, like kind of had like this big hairy face and just a big beard, and he just looked really hairy, and he looked really weird too. I don't know. I don't know what that was or what that could have been.
Well, I saw in the comment someone said, if you're a scary, unusual looking creature, the one thing you could dress up as to blend in is a clown. I mean, they already look unusual, and they're already meant to look like kind of funny, so that they're meant to make you laugh. But all anyone really sees is a bunch of scary looking figures. I mean, when I was young, I never liked clowns. I never understood the point of them. They're meant for kids.
You were scared of them when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
we went to the circus when you were a kid, and you were scared of the clowns. I mean, you know, well, you were too.
Well, you know why? Is because
yeah, you were scared of. Yeah, you don't remember that?
No, not really.
When you were a kid. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't you.
I had a reason.
Because I was gonna say, like, my aunt used to have this.
Yeah,
this
it was the room with the clowns.
Yeah, like she had clown wallpaper, like all.
Yeah, I remember that.
The top, and then she had these shelves, that were full of clown figurines and like clown lamps.
That's right.
The whole guest bedroom was just clowns, and like I would go and sleep in there, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that, and it was like it was so weird, and little clowns coming down with parachutes or whatever.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that.
It was pretty horrific.
What possessed her to do that?
I remember was one of your brothers, I think, that was afraid of him. I don't remember exactly which one of them was if it was Polito, if it was Gordo or Adrian. One of them though didn't like clowns and didn't want to be there. I just remember something about the clowns. I know you didn't like them, Tony.
Well, because when I was young, I had a dream that a clown kidnapped me and my best friend and was just making me watch it hurt him. So that's why it just made me not like clowns.
That actually really happened, dude. And you know, we were just trying to scare you.
I was the clown.
Yeah. Because your best was it Dumb John?
No. He's doing good.
Did he pan out? Because that kid was
doing all right. He was in the Marines for a little bit, but then he got out
a little bit.
Yeah, I think he finished his stuff.
Was that like your friend Anthony? That
I thought he ended up getting in a bunch of trouble.
I thought he got no. That was your friend.
That was your friend.
That was your friend. The guy that broke into that car. He was with the guy that broke into the car. And he was going to go to the Marines the next day. You remember that kid, James? What is his name, James?
No, James went to the Marines.
No, dude, he got in trouble. He caught a case, dude. Remember? Because we made him give us the shirt back. He got in trouble.
Yeah, but he must have got out of it because he was in for 4 years.
No, that's crazy, man. They let people go to the Marine Corps. It's like
they probably told him like
his friend broke into a car or something. But we're getting off track here. The point is that I knew one of y'all was scared of clowns, and I thought that one of your brothers was too, Anthony. But
Probably.
anyway, I think it was police.
Well, I mean, listening to that room, I could see why.
Well, who would want to be in that? But the thing is, this kid has this vivid memory of this, clown and that he thinks was a werewolf and that it was hiding itself, and what it has to do with anything is that Barton had a story about this kid that saw one, that it looked like the big bad wolf. And the way that the face looked when that thing elongated, he said that it was like you could see the flesh color, like it was a brownish flesh color, like, coming off of its. And he goes, dude, it was not a clown. It was dressed like a clown, and it was pretending to be a clown. It's weird because I have a memory of going to the fair in Haskell, and a clown like terrorizing me and my sisters. And we were like, oh no, it was not a clown. What do you call that? What do you call
A mime?
Yeah, one of those people that doesn't. I mean, like it juggled but it didn't talk.
Yeah,
That's a mime.
Okay, but it was juggling too, and so I remember it
Oh.
like running towards us, and then we all just kind of freaking out, and we were going to get on this little roller coaster or something, and it was like doing that right by us, and I was just like, I was not amused. I was a kid, and I was like, this is creepy. I don't want to be around this person, and I think, when you look at clowns too, like we're not going to get on a whole thing about clowns, but look at John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's probably what switched the view on clowns. They were probably like funny at one point, but
and then he's got pictures of him with Rosalind Carter, like he was connected to the, and like what's his name? Ted Bundy was a diehard Republican, and what's his name?
John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy was a diehard
Democrat.
Democrat, and I'm like, that should show you right there what the two-party system has done.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just the clown thing was really weird. And so what happened was this guy told me he had nightmares for a long time. Now here's what's weird. He had a daughter. When she was about 9 years old, he said that she was standing by the window and she was waving at somebody. And when he walked out into the I guess it was what he called the front room or whatever. And he said it was Christmas time, and they had the Christmas tree up, and she was standing on the other side of the Christmas tree, and she was waving. And he looks out, and he sees what looks like he said it was like it was there, and then it was gone. It looked like a wolf-like being or entity. I don't want to say, but he said that it looked like it was wearing a Santa hat. And he said that it was just for a split second. And then when he talked to his daughter, she's like, it was Santa Claus. But when he saw it, he saw like a raised claw with a werewolf looking thing wearing a Santa hat. And he was already like 34 years old or something when that happened. That was only a couple years ago. But when and I asked him, I said, had you seen anything from the time you were 8 or 9, whatever, until you were in your mid-30s? He said, no, I never saw anything. I had dreams, but he goes, I saw that, and it was there for a second, and my daughter was waving at what she thought was Santa Claus. And somebody had asked me, so I did a deep dive, and I started looking into some cases. After we had the story the other day about the Santa Clauses or whatever, a couple people sent me stories. Every time I talk about something, somebody sends me a story. And so I have 2. A couple of them anyway. If I can get more than that, I'll do when I do the live stream, I'll talk about some stories. I honestly think though, with the Santa Claus thing, it could be like a tulpa.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that could be what it is. What we're dealing with is a tulpa. I don't have many Krampus anymore. I have like one, but I could probably put them together for a Christmas episode. I do have one about reindeer, which is it's really weird. Like not deer. But not all joking aside though, it sounds crazy, but this person says that they were on their roof, and once again, it was a thing where 2 kids, their children, well, they weren't her children. He was she was babysitting, but they were like, hey, there's reindeer on the roof, and they looked like demonic deer or something. And it was Christmas time. And that's a whole nother story. I'm just saying, but there's weird stuff there. But back to this whole where the guy said, and so when he told me he saw what looked like a demonic werewolf wearing a Santa hat, whatever, I if it wasn't for his daughter actually seeing what she thought was Santa Claus waving, and then him seeing it, and it looked like a werewolf. And now I asked him, I said, now, could you picture, I mean, was my question to him. I said, could you picture that clown type entity, if it had the makeup off, could you picture that being that creature out there? And he said, not really. He said, because he remembers the clown being really tall and lanky, and this thing was kind of short and squatty.
Oh, I mean, there's different types, so
Yeah.
it's still plausible. But I guess my thing is, like, he also didn't really see, like, a full face, I'm guessing, on that first one, since it was, like,
Hiding behind
his
like
face. Like,
that's
that
weird.
probably distorted his view on the two and made him look different. But if you look at it as a before and after, then I could see, how it could definitely be similar. And the thing about those roaming circuses are that it's like the perfect place to hide, because it goes from city to city. They never stay in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a major issue because criminals will often do that.
Yeah, because it's perfect place for criminals. Well, one of my friends, we call her Big Mama,
Mm-hmm.
and she was your dad's good friend,
Mm-hmm.
Tony. And she was also good friends with your dad, Alec. And she's still one of my friends now, Erica. But we call her Big Mama. But Big Mama was a carny. She went with the carnies, and she said she enjoyed it. She did it for 3 or 4 years, but she did say there were some weird people. So I don't know. I tend to be one of those people that, first of all, I'm not going to go to a rinky-dink little circus or carnival and ride anything.
Yeah.
I don't even want to ride them at SeaWorld or Six Flags or whatever. I mean, and they do a hell of more maintenance on those. It looks like, Cousin Joe went out there and put some, that roller coaster's got some problems. That WD-40 fix it right up.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to be slaughtered at the carnival by riding some, whatever. I
I've
can't
also
believe my parents let me ride it when I was a kid.
I've also seen too many horror films, not horror films, horror like clips on like YouTube Shorts where it's just like the carnival is like going, and then every time it hits a certain angle, you just see things like lifting or shaking or nuts falling. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's definitely an issue. I've seen, and then they showed one from Ukraine. This is back before the war, but I mean, they were going around, and then they just started flying off.
Yeah, I seen that one.
I was like,
oh
dude,
my gosh.
what the heck is that, dude? I'm not laughing at these poor people. I don't know how to respond to that. I was like, I told my wife, I was like, dude, I would never, ever get on one of those rides again. I just can't. I mean, I get a horrible way to die. I mean, it'd be terrible. But, being eaten by a werewolf clown would be pretty bad too. Thank you, Amy, for the donation. Big Cole, thank you for the donation. Thank you, everybody, for the donations.
I mean, I saw one where, that UFO one that spins.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even strap people in, so like people were just walking around, and then it started spinning, and people were like being thrown back, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Thank you, Paul, for the donation. $20.
Yeah, and Solo, thank you for the donation. Everybody who's donated Lunar Eclipse.
Curtis, I think he donated.
Thank you, everybody who's donated, because it's greatly appreciated right now. Paul Dill, thank you so much. Here's another thing. This person continues to have nightmares to this day. He has nightmares, and it's never stopped. It's not one of those things where you're just like, it goes away. It's going to go away when it goes away. I don't have nightmares about these creatures anymore. I used to up until a few years ago, and it just...
I think you're too aggressive to have nightmares. I think eventually your nightmares started turning into boxing matches.
You have some weird... Nelly gets nightmares, though, still, off and on.
I mean, it's one of those things where it just changes you. It leaves a mental impact. It's some people can get over it, and other people cannot, and it's it's a struggle sometimes for people to be able to overcome it, because it's one thing that you aren't expecting to take with you and you wish you couldn't, but it's something that it literally will follow you. And that's why Linda was so important, because she opened up and like let these people know, like, hey, you're not crazy, you're okay, you know, everything's gonna be okay, everything's fine. Like, you're not the only one who's experiencing these things, you're not the only one who's having to deal with these things, you're not the only one living in fear because you don't understand what's going on, you know. And it's okay to have it's okay to not understand what's going on, and these are more stories, these are more experiences, and hopefully by hearing these you'll be able to live in peace. And that's why it was so important to have a pioneer do it like that. And by doing,
Well, she even wrote a book called "I Know What I Saw."
yeah, and by doing it that way, though, it led all of us being able to expand that influence. So now we're able to help out even more people, and it leads into other things. So now it's like ghosts can become more accepted, or, you know, the rake, which, you know, we obviously don't like saying because it's
because the name.
you
know, people will stick to the name and they'll be like, "Oh, Skinwalker, that's, you know, such and such. Oh, the rake, that's creepypasta," or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody says here, they said, Holly says, "You never rode the Texas Cyclone?" Yes, I did.
So I don't know if I did.
I did. I rode it as Astro World. You're talking about Astro World? Because that's where that was at.
Wasn't Astro World like pretty bad?
It got bad.
Was it good at one point though?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, okay.
You know, you go watch the Astros play, and then you go to Astro World. It was great. I did have a weird. Now I can do a whole thing on amusement parks. I had another weird story out of an amusement park. Do you remember when we were at SeaWorld?
Yeah.
How much fun we had. It was great. It was 2 years ago. We went. We had a great time. It was us
awesome.
three, and then your brother Adrian and Nellie.
Had her all decorated up for Christmas.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Two days we just spent just having fun there. And then somebody had to go and give me a freaking messed up story. And now this is another one. Not a Dogman story, but still weird nonetheless. And they were like walking. Now I guess this would be I don't know how you would classify this story. I don't know how you would classify it. Anyways, you know, when you're walking around and there's these like the back areas where it's employees only, you can only have employees or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then these three people were walking, and it was a husband and wife and their child. And the guy says, we look over and we see what looks like a person, like they were looking at their arm, and this was an employee, I guess an employee. But they were like back there where they were, you know, behind the wooden fence or whatever, you know. And the person was like picking up trash and putting it like it had fallen out of the can, and they were getting aggravated. And he said that he goes, I didn't get a great look at it, but the side of their face and the arm was green. And he said it was just broad daylight. And he said that when the person looked up at them, like for like a split second, the right, I think he said the right eye and the mouth and everything. And this was something I was going to save for when we get James Bartley on here, but I'm going to probably bring it up again. But it was like almost like it was like changing. And I asked him, I said, did it look reptilian? He's like, wasn't it like scales? It just was green, and the ear looked pointed like an elf ear. And it was all just on that one side of their face, and it was real quick. And he goes, I turned my head real quick because I didn't want to sit there and stare at it. And then his wife looks, and thank God that the child didn't see it. And it's funny because the son's name was Anthony. And I said, well, he must have been a weak kid. Now, I'm just kidding, and I'm joking about your kid, all right? I just think he's weak. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Not really, but anyway.
Should be talking about this one.
Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he said, I grabbed my son, and he goes, and I yanked him because he was kind of dawdling behind me, you know, and he goes, and I felt bad because I pulled him real hard. And my kid, he's like a little 6-year-old. He's not a real big kid. He kind of goes flying up, you know. You're like, woo! And we're not making fun of your story or your kid or whatever, okay? Please don't take it that way, because he does watch the show. But you know, and I was going to tell it on a different different night, but you know, this is as good night as any. And he grabbed his son's arm and said, "Anthony, come on," you know, and he pulled his son up, you know. And that's actually how we started talking, because he's a listener of the show and says, you know, Anthony, he's like, that's my son's name. And I asked him if he had any stories, and he says, well, I have a couple. One of them's really weird. And he said that he saw that person. He said the person looked at him, and then their body just kind of went back to normal. And he said, we got further down, we started walking fast to the point where he goes, my son's legs weren't keeping up with us, you know. And he goes, me and my wife, we realized that we were both holding our son's arms, and the kid was like, hey, you know, like he couldn't put his feet on the ground.
He was flying.
So he said, you know, we had to literally stop, and then they kind of ducked off into this one area, you know, and they were standing there, and so there was like a stand there, I guess, with like cotton candy or whatever. I don't remember what he said that they got him. It was little frozen things or whatever.
Oh, the dots?
And he said, yeah, I told him to go get the like a frozen ice cream or whatever. So the kid went over there, and he goes, I'm standing there talking to my wife. I'm like, did you just see that? He says, yes, I saw that. And they both were like in agreement really quickly that they saw that. They saw somebody's face look weird, and it was picking up trash, and they weren't 100% certain that it was an employee. And so I said, well, if it wasn't an employee, then what was it? He said, I don't know. I mean, could somebody get in, you know, and yeah, absolutely. Somebody could jump in there and probably maybe dig through the trash. Why? I don't know. There was a very skinny person that the person was kind of down on like on their, you know, squatted down or whatever. And their legs and arms looked really long and thin. And he said where it was at was in the employee area. So they assumed that it was an employee, but it doesn't mean it was. But that was a reptilian. I mean, but like he said, didn't have scales. So if it doesn't have scales, I mean, you know, it could be anything. I don't know what the heck that was. My conclusion was, and what I told him was that I needed more data. And so I told him, I said, you need to go back to SeaWorld, and you need to, you know, and I gave him the whole scoop. I said, you need to sneak in. And, you know, leave the child at home, because you don't want to put the child in danger, but you need to show up prepared to do battle. So you're going to need a laser gun to shoot the V characters, and then you need a stake in case it's a vampire. You need silver in case it's a werewolf. And if it's a were-dolphin, that's another one that could be, or a turtle man. I don't know. I'm joking, but I don't know what it was, you know, and I don't know what to tell this guy. I mean, you know, I believe him and his wife. They saw something weird. I absolutely believe it, but I just don't know, you know, what that could be. I mean, when we were at SeaWorld, I was like, we had fun. I was like, I had a great time. I was like, I'm sorry that happened to you. Gosh, I don't know. But now if I go back, I'm going to be looking.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of know where it was that it happened. So I'm going like, oh, geez, I think I went by that area. No. I don't know. I'm going to be really honest. If I saw that, like, you know, and it was just like some skinny guy, like, you know, I'm not gonna, and if I have my kid with me, I'd do what he did. But if it's us, I'm just gonna be like, y'all going ahead. I'm going to go see what that is.
You probably would. I could see.
I would. And then I would just go there and I would just pop its arm out of socket and be like, you're going to change now in front of everybody. Come on. No. You're not going to slither back over there. We're going to do this.
Local Austin man just ripped a man in half, saying, "Change, man, change."
And then it turns and rips my face off. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, blood spurting everywhere. It was a reptilian. Oh my god, like eats part of my face, you know. And then there's a shootout, and who knows what else happens. And I'm just kidding. We're gonna do all this at SeaWorld. Whatever. It's horrible. But yeah, it would be unnerving, you know. And the only reason we got on this is because of the carnival thing. You know, we kind of just went down the rabbit hole. But that's for another time. We'll go into some when we get James Bartley on there. We're gonna talk, and you folks be ready, because we're gonna talk reptilians. And this says hybrid. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. We're going to have some. We're going to talk. There's a lot to talk about. So, folks, I appreciate everybody that donated. Thank God y'all are here because things are tough right now. We lost a lot of work and we are reeling, and then we had to move. Somebody says Action Park was a death trap in New Jersey. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that one. I think it's abandoned now.
Yeah.
I think, was that the one that they did the new Jack Butt movie in?
The what movie?
You can't say it, obviously.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Did you
follow.
read the comment?
I don't
Which
follow
ones?
those people.
Overbuilt Automotive says, poor Josh devoured by super strong zombie reptilian midget man. Well, I can tell you right now, I know what Alex's dad would do. Like, he would just run over there and do a flying kick to its face and then just throw it over his shoulder and, like, put it in a cage and be like, you're going to change. And just poke him with a cattle prod until it changed. He believed in the reptilians. Because we work. Let me tell you a quick story here. This is your dad's story. I don't know if he ever told you this. And I'll finish it with this one. It was very weird, though. He used to call this guy No Face. And now this is years ago. Okay, this was back in like in the 90s. We worked at a place called Future Firm. It was a gym. What do you call it? A membership. You had to have as a club, gym, club, whatever. Weightlifter place. And I worked a couple nights there, and your dad worked there, Alec. And there was a guy that would come into the gym. And I remember he was from Pittsburgh. I remember that because he'd wear his Steelers shirt, and your dad was a Bills fan. I was a Cowboys fan, so we both hated him. Just for that. His name was Pitts. We call him Pittsburgh Mike. But what was so weird was when he would walk to the back. Roger showed me this one time on the camera. And he said, look at what happens to his face when he walks by one of the cameras. And in particular, like by the back, you'd see when they'd go back. There was like a little back area. And there was a camera right there, and he would look up at the camera, and his face would go down and up and down. I'm not joking. I only saw it one time, but Roger said he saw it multiple times.
Like his face moved off his head.
Yeah, like it. No, it didn't go like it moved off, but it was like it would go up and down. Like it, I saw it one. Okay, he showed it to me one time, so I can't say I saw something paranormal and weird at that particular moment because I only saw it one time, and it could have been a glitch from the camera. You know what I mean? The cameras in the 90s are terrible. I mean, but you could still make out the features,
Yeah.
But when this guy Mike would walk by that camera, his face would kind of move up and down like that. I mean, it was bizarre. And I don't know if my friend Dominic is watching the show or whatever, but I know that he would work out there too. And I think he knew Mike, Pittsburgh Mike, and he was just a normal guy who would work out. But if he was on camera, according to Roger and then another guy that worked there, they both told me that guy's face would distort on camera. And the guy was freakishly strong too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying that there's anything, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he's a demon-possessed guy or he's a reptilian or a werewolf. I'm just saying and I did see it one time. I did not go back and spend my nights looking at this person's face. I mean, there were some weird people there. A guy pulled a samurai sword out on us one time and tried to kill us. And we had to talk him down. And that guy's still running around free to this day. And y'all know who he is.
Yeah.
He's crazy as all hell. And he was.
Yeah, I met him briefly.
Yeah. One of my Dogman witnesses is going to be in my book. Had to go to Houston with that guy recently. And he talked about me and Roger like we were crazy. I'm like, you pull that samurai sword on us, dude? And we're crazy? We had to keep you from killing your wife? No bullcrap. And I had to stand in between him and going inside to kill a person. Then the cops show up and they're like, oh yeah, he's gone now. So while he comes back, let us know. I'm like, go get him. I mean, he had a samurai sword. He was threatening to kill us.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like, oh, he didn't kill her.
And they're like, well, he didn't hurt anybody at all. He just held it and blah, blah, blah.
Threatened to hurt y'all, but that could be anything.
That was years ago. It was like over 20 years ago.
Just give us a call next time he shows up, and we'll arrive 30 minutes after.
And
he
that's
leaves.
what's
After the
happening
murder.
now. We're getting shot at. We have how many now? 6 now? 6 times?
Yeah.
We've been not us, but we've had our guards shot at. You know,
Multiple sites too. That's the weird thing.
what is this? Did you see the 2022 documentary American Werewolf by Steve Bloodbread? Who? I don't know what that is. Dear Healer, I don't know. Are you being funny or what? Somebody said Zuck. No, the Zuck would not be. He's an android. He's like, that's him. Guy, when he was sitting before Congress, I was sitting there going like, dude, can we just please
It's obviously someone pretending to be human.
tear his mask off his
Something,
face,
whatever.
please, so we can get rid of
It
him?
was so weird watching him drink water. I've never seen someone drink water incorrectly.
He's all like, this water is refreshing. Like, oh man, he's such a real person. I like him. I tell you what, I'd vote for him. Most likely to enslave all of humanity. So, that being said, folks, thank you for tuning in. Be careful for werewolves punching or whatever they are that punch your windshield, and be careful for clowns, werewolves dressed up as clowns, werewolves hanging out on people's balconies and maybe possibly devouring people that are complaining as they're walking along the road. And for those that try to grab you in the night through your window. Those are all things that people tell us that happen. And I'm one of the people, one of the weirdos that you know, somebody messaged me the other day, said, you're making us all look bad in this community. And I'm like, lady, we talk about Dogman and werewolves. Okay?
It's a little
We're on
late
the
for that.
fringes of society, right? How much weirder can we get? I don't know. Let's see. How low can you go? Death row. What a brother know. Once again, back here's the rhyme animal, whatever. Me, public enemy number one. 5-0 said freeze. Werewolf got numb. Yeah. So I'll tell you what. We're going to be back next Friday with more weird stuff, and I'm going to keep poking the bear and making people freaking uncomfortable and weird and angry and all kinds of weird thoughts. I had somebody tell me the other day, I don't know what to think of you. You make me nervous. I was like, then don't watch. Don't watch, because you never know what I'm going to do. I might stick a pen in my eye, and you just, oh my God, I can't stop watching. This guy's picking it, you know. I think that sometimes watching me is kind of like watching a train wreck. You can't look away. You just got to keep watching. And then you got the guys that, you know, I say guys because I think they're guys, but they watch me and they hang on every word I say so they can run to Reddit or whatever platform and talk bad. But like you said to them, Tony, hey, you're just making us money.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for actually spreading
everything we do.
Because when they go to those forums and they spread and speak bad about us, then the people who read those forums will come to watch our show to see what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more reviews. You're just helping us out.
Yeah, there was one of them in the chat.
Earlier, yeah.
Yeah, earlier. But the funny thing is, like, I have the live chat set up to where if you want to comment, you have to subscribe for at least 20 minutes. So, like, that means this guy went out of his way to subscribe to the channel and then watch it for 20 minutes and then get his jab in.
Then the best
only
part
to be
was
hidden from the channel. So now
his comment wasn't even shown because it was hidden by YouTube. And then it was put under review. So he like his whole thing was wasted.
Yeah, and people message me too. They'll like send me a friend request. I like the show, and I'll become their friend, and they'll attack me, or they won't ever say anything unless they want to critique something I say, or they'll follow me in a group and say a bunch of crap. And you're like, dude, you know, it's the bottom line is you're the one wasting your life following me. Okay. Granted, I'm a very interesting guy, you know, but I'm not that interesting. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? Like you're wasting your life. Go do something with yourself. Okay. I mean, you probably already are. They're probably serial killers or some other weird stuff. And in between whatever they're doing, you know, putting the lotion in the basket or whatever they do, they're probably, this is the best they got is just to troll somebody, me, because I don't agree with their poo-poo caca head views on what a werewolf is or what a zombie werewolf is. Or you got to realize that we're all on the fringes of society, folks. Okay. we're becoming more mainstream, but that's why a lot of these people don't want their names out there. And it's just pretty, like, you could tell people my story, but I don't want people to know who I am. I have a life. I don't want my neighbors to think I'm weird. Okay, well, that's fine. But, the thing is, the reason people do that is because this is a fringe subject. It just is. I mean, and so I appreciate all the people that stick it out, come and hear us talk and do what we do. Folks, I haven't forgotten about the giveaways. That is not the thing. There are 4 or 5 people that I owe stuff to, but we're moving, and we're also moving stuff around back here in the storage, and we can't even get to some stuff right now. So we are going to have to try to figure something out so I can get you your stuff. If you are somebody who's won something from us, that's why I haven't been doing the giveaways, posting them, the shows in the Paranormal Roundtable group on Facebook, because we can't do the giveaway because we can't get in there. The boxes and stuff are everywhere. We're moving stuff around. We're in the middle of transition. And so we will get back to it, though. And I do owe 4 or 5 people some stuff, and I will get to you. And please remessage me. You're not bothering me. It's not a bother. You're not, just message me and say, hey, man, you owe me some stuff. And I'll get on it, okay? I'm just moving, and we have stuff everywhere, okay? Am I lying?
No, it's pretty hectic right now. Everything.
Yeah, so it is a mess. It is a mess, and we're trying to get it all. Once we get it all sorted out, I personally blame Alec. I think that Alec is.
Yeah, he's the new guy.
You wanna speak up, Alec?
It's all his fault.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, okay.
Have you anything to say for yourself?
Yes, I personally blame him, and so it's called scapegoating, not for me. He is scapegoating, being like, I didn't do this. That's right, Alec. You did nothing. You watched the boxes pile up into an avalanche ready to happen, and you did nothing but work on the show and other stuff. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in at the Paranormal Roundtable. And everyone, please pray for Linda Godfrey's family. I appreciate everybody that was able to answer the call and talk and give a tribute to her. Very good guys. They're all good people. And Linda was the salt of the earth. And she will be missed, but not forgotten. That's why it's important to, write these books, because if everything were to shut down, I was talking to David about that earlier. I was like, what happens if everything just were to, boom, it's over. Nobody even remember me, because all I have is this stuff up in the interwebs. I don't have books out there that you can just physically look at and read, when you're sitting around the fire after the great, whatever, extinction happens or whatever. You're sitting around the fire, you're like, oh, this is cool, I used to have something. You're like, well, where are your books at? Get out of here, fatty. You didn't do anything. That's all they're going to do. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Friday. Christmas is coming up, so we're going to be doing some serious giveaways. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. I am going to try to give away at least 30 or 40 different things for Christmas. Well, that's called trying. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try. Okay? And if I owe you some stuff, please remessage me, because for some reason my messenger decided to go whatever on top of the avalanche of stuff we got to go through. But yeah, also we're going to be doing a contest pretty soon, folks, and we're going to, after the first of the year, we're going to do this thing, and it's probably going to be in the spring, but we're going to do a contest where we're going to actually fly 2 people out, you and a plus one. We're going to fly you out, put you in a hotel, and we're going to hang out, and we're going to let you be part of the show. And we're going to load you up with a bunch of cool PRT stuff, and then we're going to stick you back on a plane and send you back where you came from. Now, if that sounds cool, come and hang out with the PRT crew, right? Maybe we can drive over to San Antonio and aggravate Ken while he's at the zoo. Apparently, he's got a new pet frog. He got an African bullfrog. You know what these things? They get the size of a dinner plate.
They're huge.
Wow.
They're enormous.
And him and Ann adopted
They're
it.
allowed. That's the thing too, I think.
I don't know why you would do that, Ken.
I'm not into amphibians or reptiles.
I told him if he got big enough, it would eat him. Kid's not a big guy. I'm worried about his welfare. Another year or two, we can go check on him. I volunteer Alec to go in and
We go check on him, and he's riding it
Alec
around.
eats Alec. So I'd be like, dang, he ate one of my skinny guys. Oh, it's another one. What does A-Man say? A bunch of skinny guys. I was like, what does that say about us, Adam? We probably need to lose weight.
Oh,
So, folks, we love you. I really do love you. I love you with all my heart. I pray for you. We're all in this together. You don't realize how much I believe that. Paratroopers, Paranormal Roundtable, we're all in this together. We love you. We're all one big family, right? We're going to get through this. Linda wanted us to keep going, she wanted us to keep doing what we're doing. And I'm not joking. I mean, she was so full of life, and it's tragic the way it went down and the way it happened. But let's try to remember, she autographed some books for me and drew little, cartoons in them and stuff. And I have those, and I'll always cherish those. So, it is what it is. And we are where we are. Go check out her books, though. You're not going to get them from me. But you can go and buy some of her books on Amazon, different places, and she did a lot of good work. One of her books, like I said, is in my top 5. And check out Barton Nunley's books. Check out Ken Gerhart and Lyle Blackburn.
David Weatherly.
David Weatherly, and go watch Dark Waters' show. He does a great job. Good guy. Nick Redfern, great guy. And, Chad Lewis, her and Chad were very close. Love all you guys. And from everybody here at PRT. Oh, and also I'm going to be on Chris Garitano's show, Off to the Witch, coming up pretty soon. We're going to be talking about some stuff. So I don't do a lot of shows. People know that, other than my own. But I'm going to do his. But anyway, that's it, folks. I'll let you know when that happens. You guys can go check it out. Of course, we'll talk about who knows what. We're going to have some other guests coming on this coming week. We're going to get a lot of things done. I heard a lot of things. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And we'll see you later. Good night.